Our story kicks off with Mythic World, a decade-old dating sim originally designed for female gamers. Plot twist. It ended up attracting a massive wave of male players too. The roster offered everything, from meta-breaking powerhouses that were easy to pilot, to high-difficulty characters that were basically unplayable. Deep in this character graveyard sat one discarded avatar, notoriously weak, useless, and a total nightmare to level. But one absolute madman, Baek Yu-seol, spent 10 grueling years mastering this bottom-tier joke. Right now, he's cracking his knuckles to warm up. The legend who actually chose that trash character is finally locking in. On a gorgeous day, with crisp, warm air, Yu-seol sipped his tea, eyes glued to the monitor, with lethal focus. He was scanning the game forums, where the entire community seemed to be losing their minds over something huge. One click revealed the carnage. A stupid dragon had appeared, and it was absolutely breaking the game. It wiped my entire account. One hit and I'm locked out forever. How is this even possible? My character just got deleted. What the hell? Yu-seol stared at the screen, completely baffled by the chaos. A final boss in a dating sim? This was supposed to end with a confession, not a total server wipe. Scrolling down, he spotted a viral thread that was getting flooded with panicked comments. Guys, this boss is literally unbeatable. This black dragon with the obsidian horn is a walking cheat code. It has 99% magic resistance, 0 cooldowns, and it just eats every spell I throw at it. It's spamming nukes. How do we kill this thing? This has to be a game-breaking bug. Yu-seol realized the poster was a famous pro. Smirking, he set his tea down. Now this is interesting. He propped up his chin, analyzing the frantic posts from the other players. Something felt off. A magic immune monster in a world built on magic? Pure absurdity, or a developer's sick joke? As players cried over their vanishing accounts, a massive notification suddenly flashed across his display. The Black Magic Dragon, 13th moon of the Dark Night, has arrived. Yu-seol dived back into the lore. In this world, a cult known as the Black Magic Society exists for one reason: total world domination. Their goal? Open the Persona Gate and let darkness swallow reality. That's when the dragon awakens. Once it emerges, 90% of the continent is doomed to fall under the shadow of the gate. Yu-seol's jaw dropped. I've been so busy grinding PvP, I completely ignored this insane storyline. The game was spiraling into madness. He felt a bit conflicted. Wait, have I just been ducking this fight? Maybe it's time to see what all the hype is about. He hovered his mouse over the trigger. Challenge the Dark Dragon? Without a second thought, he clicked yes. Time to show off 10 years of grinding. Let's see what I can really do, Yu-seol muttered. Here's the deal with his character. He's the only person in the game who can't use magic. In a world of wizards, he was born powerless. Even the most hardcore pros refused to touch him, calling him a useless, broken waste of space. Honestly, he was weaker than a background NPC, but he had one tiny, hidden advantage. He possessed exactly one spell. Back in the game, the dragon was already charging a massive nuke in its maw. A colossal fireball gathered before being unleashed with a world-shaking roar. The flames tore through the air, screaming toward Yu-seol at terminal velocity. It was a certain death sentence, but Yu-seol just smirked. With ice in his veins, he triggered his ultimate skill, Blink. He flickered forward, a blur of motion, carving through the dragon's neck. Again and again, blink and strike. Blink allows him to teleport up to 10 meters, but there's a catch. The exit point is completely random. One wrong move and the collision force would turn his body into a red mist. It's a suicide mission. The mana cost is insane. The cooldown is a joke, and it leaves you paralyzed for 2 whole seconds. It's a trash skill for everyone else. But Baek Yu-seol? He's built different. He mastered the random distance. He learned to control the uncontrollable with godlike precision. He even figured out how to cancel the paralysis penalty without using a single drop of mana, which was lucky, because his character didn't even have a mana bar to begin with. For 10 years, Yu-seol turned a movement skill into a weapon of absolute destruction, pure, raw skill. He specialized in the one class that shunned magic. In a blur of motion, Baek Yu-seol lunged, carving a devastating wound across the dark demon dragon's snout. He ruthlessly cleaved the beast in two, a god-tier achievement. As he stood amidst the carnage like a divine warrior, a screen flickered to life. The Dark Moon's final boss has fallen. Even the main character couldn't believe his own eyes. Wait, what? The boss is already dead? He gaped. Sure, he was decked out in legendary gear, but this character was supposed to be trash. Absolute insanity. I've got to post this flex on socials immediately. Before he could upload the kill, crimson warnings flooded his monitor like a digital bloodbath. System critical. The mythical world faced a 90% destruction rate. Total annihilation was imminent. True ending sequence initiated. Reading the scrolling text, Yu-seol's heart hammered against his ribs in pure shock. What is happening? Before he could breathe, another prompt materialized out of thin air. Please proceed to the final conclusion. Terrified, he screamed. What kind of glitch is this? Suddenly, he vanished from his bedroom into a void. When he blinked, he was staring at a foreign sky. UCL lay sprawled on the cold dirt. He groaned, clutching his throbbing head as the world spun wildly. Where am I? He trembled uncontrollably, eyes darting around the unfamiliar surroundings in a panic. A faint glimmer caught his eye. Stumbling forward, he realized he was staring at a mirror. He leaned in, peering into the glass. The reflection staring back at him was utterly impossible. It was a face he'd spent 10 years looking at. This was Baek UCL himself. Confusion turned to dread as a system message popped up. Episode 1. Evade the Hunters. Realization hit like a truck. This was the infamous impossible tutorial mission. No way. Is this a fever dream? Reaching into his pocket, his fingers brushed against a piece of paper. He pulled out the Stella Academy enrollment forms. The evidence was undeniable, no matter how much he resisted. He was inside the game world. He was officially the hero, now the legendary Baek UCL. He buried his face in his hands, despairing. Logic dictated he must reach that true ending. But in 10 years, this game only ever provided endless loops, never a final conclusion. His pupils dilated with terror. Wait, has literally nobody ever beaten this game before? Damn it. No time for an existential crisis. If memory served, the nightmare was about to begin. The black demons were already on their way to slaughter him in this house. Rushing to the window, he peered through the frost. A squad of dark-clad killers prowled outside. They tore through the blizzard, barking orders. Find that bastard. He couldn't have gone far. UCL dropped to the floor, hiding behind a wooden frame. This is bad. Real bad. They were closing in. Suddenly, a man with eerie, milky eyes paused. Sensing something, he pointed directly at the shack. Check that building. The rat is probably hiding inside. The hunters moved in unison. UCL's pulse skyrocketed. He needed a plan, and he needed it now. Anxiety gnawed at him. He was trapped, clueless, and seconds away from a brutal end. He recalled the ticking clock for this mission. Combat was suicide. As his mind raced, the system intervened. You can use Blink. UCL stared blankly. Could he actually pull off this legendary maneuver? Afflicted with mana leakage, he couldn't store energy. He could only rely on raw, practiced magic. Returning to the frozen woods outside, white powder smothered the landscape as tension peaked inside the dilapidated shack. UCL weighed his options. His Blink was only level 1, capping his escape at 9 meters. How am I supposed to click a skill in real life? This wasn't a keyboard and mouse anymore. Outside, the black demon cultists sprinted toward his location like starving wolves. Heavy boots crunched in the snow, drawing closer. Panic flared. They're right outside the door. He had to gamble his life. No more hesitation. Screw it. Let's ride. Suddenly, the cultists stopped. Boss, I found the target, a voice roared. Don't let him escape. After him. Snag him alive. The cultists barked, charging like rabid dogs while screaming for him to halt. Don't let that brat slip away. As Baek UCL bolted, he realized the Blink tutorial's first trial had begun. Outrunning them seemed impossible. Their enchanted footwear allowed them to close the gap with supernatural speed. My only ticket out was Blink. Stay cool, he whispered. I've pulled this off 1,000 times. Precision was everything. Just as the killers lunged, screaming insults, they were practically breathing down his neck. Why won't you just die? One yelled. Baek stole a glance back and cursed they were right on his heels. But Blink is a double-edged sword. One wrong calculation in distance means slamming into a wall and instant death. But for a pro like me, I play by different rules. Baek smirked through the exhaustion. Suddenly, the black demon leader surged forward, his blade gleaming with lethal intent as he roared. Go to hell, you dog. In that split second, where life meets death, the air grew heavy. Baek triggered Blink, vanishing into thin air. Score! It actually worked, he cheered internally. The thugs froze, jaws dropping. Wait, was that Blink? Is this kid actually a mage? Seeing his men panic, the boss growled. Get it together. Blink has a fatal flaw we can exploit. He'll be paralyzed for 2 seconds. That's our opening. He turned his predatory gaze back toward Baek. His eyes nearly popped out. How is he still moving? Meanwhile, Baek was already sprinting like a madman. Focus, Baek. One slip and it's over. He needed to weaponize this jagged terrain to lose them. In this game, failing to master Blink means a game over. 99% of players who pick Baek UCL never even finish the tutorial. And the lucky 1% who actually survive the start, they usually choke on the distance combos. Remembering this, Baek began spamming consecutive blinks across the rocks. He flickered through the air like a ghost, leaving the cultists stunned. Blinking on this terrain? Is he insane? The brat is suicidal, the leader barked. Mages, front and center. Let's end this now. Snipe him from a distance. 3 mages stepped up. their faces twisted with pure, cold-blooded malice. The footsteps stopped. Bake glanced back, a cold sweat breaking. Great. Are they switching to long-range magic? Phase 2 of the guide. Dodging magic arrows with blink. Crap. In the game, this was much easier. Back then, a screen gave me a third-person view. Now, I'm blind. Suddenly, a system window flashed. Mona Lisa syndrome. Activated. Sixth sense and accelerated perception kicked into overdrive, sharpening his world. Instantly, he felt the ripples of magic arrows closing in. He didn't need eyes to see the incoming death. He danced through the volley with effortless grace. But just as he exhaled, a massive, cursed projectile shrieked toward him. This is it, my final blink charge. He vanished just as a meteor-like explosion rocked the earth, sending a deafening shockwave through the canyon. The raw pressure crushed the air from his lungs. Bake collapsed, trembling as he braced himself. As the thick dust settled, a massive, smoldering crater was all that remained of where he'd stood. Gulping for air, he realized how close he'd come to the afterlife. No time to celebrate. Keep moving. He took off again, but his blood ran cold. Ahead lay a bottomless, soul-sucking abyss. A single misstep would send him straight to meet his ancestors. This was the moment of truth. The third tutorial trial, crossing the void. The only way across was a perfectly timed blink. He had to nail the distance to meet the passing mages on the other side. That was his exit. This would end the tutorial if he survived. The catch? He had to manually cancel the spell. He had a 0.1 second window. 1 millisecond off meant death. 2 floating rocks were his path. 0.1 seconds? Easier said than done. You sadistic devs, Bake hissed, his heart hammering. What kind of psycho designed this tutorial? It seemed impossible, yet he knew there was a way. The devil was in the details. Suddenly, the bloodthirsty roars of the cultists echoed right behind him. There he is, cornered at the cliff. They had arrived. Bake spun around, his heart jumping. They were closing in faster than expected. The gap between him and the killers was shrinking rapidly. Only 100 meters left, and his blink cooldown was a grueling 3 seconds. He was out of time. Backed into a corner with blood on his mind, Beak Uciel crouched low behind a thick tree trunk. Mapping out the carnage, doubt suddenly crept in. Was he actually insane enough to think he'd survive? He'd just finished one hellish clash. In a game, the system would never allow enemies to tail him like this. But this is reality. There are no mechanics or mercy, and definitely no rules forcing him to obey. Taking a life, that's the least of his worries now. This isn't just about his parents' old enemies. Right on cue, the shadows moved. Uciel's knuckles went white as he gripped his blade, ready for war. His eyes blazed with lethal intent. Come and get it, you losers. I'll take on every last one. Seconds later, the pack closed in. The leader's face was twisted in a mask of pure, petty resentment. Fuming with rage, he roared, "There's the brat. Don't just stand there. Snatch that kid for me now." With a blood-curdling battle cry, the mob surged forward, their faces contorted with absolute, murderous fury. On the other side, Uciel remained ice-cold and unshaken. One of the black demons let out a sneer. Noting the boy's stance, he mocked, "Going solo against us? That is a truly one-way ticket to the grave. You're dead meat, brat." But Uciel was locked in, his eyes scanning for the perfect opening to strike. His brain calculated the gap instantly. Target locked, exactly 8.7 meters away. Without warning, he triggered his blink ability, teleporting through the air like a streak of lethal lightning. The demon didn't even have time to blink before death came knocking at his front door. The leader's jaw hit the floor, stunned. Meanwhile, Uciel's expression was radiant with cold, hard determination. Moving with godlike velocity, he struck. The impact forced a fountain of gore from the demon's mouth. Crimson spray painted Uciel's clothes. He watched fresh blood drip steadily from his trembling, lethal fingertips. He felt zero remorse. It was simple math. Their lives today, or his. He chose to survive. I'll slaughter them all to live. With that cold thought, he unleashed a bone-shattering, final strike. He followed up with a brutal kick, sending the guy flying like a rag doll into the distance. He crashed right into his allies, fueling their rage. With one down, Uciel didn't stick around to chat. He bolted. Blink was on cooldown, and he wasn't stupid enough to risk everything without his best skill. Realizing the kid was making a break for it, the demon went nuclear, screaming in absolute madness. "Screw that. He's escaping. At all costs, do not let that little rat get away." Uciel's heart hammered as he ran. One down, but the rest won't be nearly as easy to kill. His mind raced. Then, silence. Had they actually given up the hunt? No, it was too quiet. Before he could even breathe, the entire squad manifested right in his path. They were already waiting. Trapped with nowhere to run, he grit his teeth. Were these bastards using high-tier magic to cut him off? Gotta dodge these freaks. Across the field, the leader's lips curled as he prepared the final blow. End him, he barked. Instantly, the air shimmered with a volatile, eerie, and strange magical pressure. A massive, crackling spark tore through the atmosphere, locked onto Uciel like a heat-seeking missile. Panic flared. It wasn't just one. A whole barrage of magical projectiles was screaming straight toward him. With no exit in sight, he hissed a desperate curse. He was literally seconds away from total annihilation. Stupid cheat code magic. Then, a spark of hope. Wait. I actually have a way out of this. His eyes locked onto a lone branch jutting from a nearby cliff. It was his only lifeline. He triggered Blink, vanished, and reappeared by the branch just as a massive fireball erupted behind him. Boom! The impact shattered the earth, kicking up a blinding, suffocating cloud of thick dust and debris. A demon grinned through the smoke, looking pleased. Serves him right. That annoying little pest is toasted. His celebration was short-lived. As the dust cleared, the crater was empty. No body, not even a trace. Where did he go? While they stood dazed, Uciel wasn't just hiding, he was hunting their leader. He'd blinked through their spell. The boss looked up only to see Uciel's shadow looming dangerously close. They locked eyes, inches apart. Uciel knew his blink technique needed every ounce of momentum to land. He blinked once more, delivering a strike so violent it silenced the forest. Screams tore through the air as the mob watched in horror. This wasn't supposed to happen. Uciel twisted the blade, driving it home until the boss's life faded. They couldn't fathom his sudden, brutal awakening, or where this terrifying power came from. Covered in gore and gasping for air, Uciel stared at the fallen, 2 down. But he was just getting started. I need to finish them before they recover. This freak, the scarred thug spat. No mage reacts this fast, the leader hissed. Uciel realized his gaming reflexes were carrying him. In-game, he was legendary, but reality had limits. He couldn't keep dodging forever. To survive at this range, speed was everything. He lunged forward with reckless intent. I see your game, the scarred thug barked. Just a one-trick pony with blink and a dagger. He guarded his vitals tightly. You can't reach my throat. His blade stood ready. Bring it on, kid, he taunted. Unleash the ice tide over here. Uciel shimmered in a flurry of blinks. Suddenly, a massive shockwave exploded toward him. Confident in his crushing power, the scarred man smirked. Gotcha. Time to beg for mercy, he gloated. But his triumph was short-lived. Uciel bypassed the blast entirely. He vanished, reappearing only to claim a henchman's head. Pure terror gripped the leader. Damn you. You were a rat yesterday. Why fight now? Drenched in crimson, Uciel gave a freezing stare. The coward you knew is dead. Your bullying made me stronger. I should thank you for the daily training. Shut up, you brat. We were just playing, he roared. Now die. Uciel didn't flinch. With bloodlust radiating from him, he marched toward his prey. He launched his spear like a bolt of lightning. The leader braced for impact. He'll blink behind me once I block, the thug guessed. Too predictable, kid. He smirked, confident his defense was impenetrable. Not today, honey. With a casual flick, he sliced the spear in 2. Victory seemed certain. He turned to counter, expecting an ambush. But his math was fatally wrong. His body seized. Agony twisted his features into a grotesque mask of shock. Uciel hadn't vanished. He had charged straight through, driving steel into the man's heart. A frontal assault? The leader gasped, his life fading into darkness. The hunt was over. As the bodies cooled, a golden screen flickered to life. Unique story progression achieved. Bonus rewards granted by the Constellation Project. Adrenaline faded, leaving Uciel trembling. He collapsed, lungs burning for air. He stared at his blood-soaked palms. Reality finally crashed down upon him. Unlike the stories, transmigration wasn't a dream. It was a waking nightmare. Every second here was a desperate struggle for survival. His first blink, his first fight, his first life taken. All in one day. He had killed. Slowly, he rose and wiped the dust from his gear. This world was real. He needed to move before more trouble arrived. He paused, glancing back at the fallen mercenaries. A cold thought crossed his mind. Hesitation flickered in his eyes, but logic won out. He knelt beside the corpses. Call it low, but survival required cash. He began looting their pockets thoroughly. Empty pockets don't win wars. Finally, his fingers brushed something heavy. A fat pouch of gold. 200 million? He whispered in disbelief. A small win in a hellish situation. But the road ahead looked impossible. A massive sheer cliff blocked his path. One wrong step meant a fatal fall. Trapped between death and a drop, Uciel scanned for any way across. Suddenly, a voice drifted through the mist. Is someone out there? He looked up, spotting silhouettes on the far side. Uciel waved frantically. Over here, help! He realized they were the mages from the guide. I'm right here, he screamed, his voice echoing across the abyss. A voice called out from the far side, but with the bridge gone, the gap looked impossible. You sure about this? BQ Uciel's voice crackled back. I am on my way. Hearing his signal, the girl quickly alerted the rest of the squad. Hold on, let's give him a moment. He says he's got this. Beside her, a blue-haired guy shifted uneasily. Skepticism dripped from his voice. Crossing that chasm is suicide. You'd need to be a third-tier knight at the very least. Can that kid really pull it off? The girl bit her lip, muttering. Honestly, I have no idea. Suddenly, her jaw dropped. Beak was already airborne, dancing across the floating debris with terrifying agility and grace. The group watched breathlessly, hearts racing. Mid-air, Beak UCL was locked in, his focus sharper than a razor's edge. Moving like a literal streak of lightning, he had already cleared half the distance before they could even blink. What kind of insane movement is that? Someone shouted, unable to process the god-tier footwork unfolding before them. Is that blink magic? A small, green-haired girl standing in the back spoke up with absolute certainty. That's definitely blink. She looked like a cute, innocent doll, but her eyes held a different story. The purple-haired girl glanced back, stunned. She looked from the kid to Beck, her mind spinning. Are you serious? Is that actually blink? Blink doesn't have that kind of precision or range. He looks way too smooth for it to be normal magic. To the others, he looked like a pro, but internally, Beak UCL was fighting for every inch of progress. Suddenly, the purple-haired girl's blood ran cold. Wait, who the hell are those two? She stammered, pointing frantically. Are they with him? On the opposite cliff, two figures cloaked in shadows were closing in on the edge. Confusion turned to horror as one of the strangers raised a staff, dark energy swirling around the wood. A sinister orange glow erupted, manifesting into a wicked magical circle aimed directly at Beck's back. The spell surged forward. Watch out, behind you, a voice screamed, echoing through the canyon. Beak felt a cold shiver of pure killing intent. Damn it, he hissed, sensing the incoming doom rushing toward him. At the last millisecond, he blinked. A massive explosion rocked the air where he had stood just a heartbeat ago. Bang! Thunderous blasts echoed. As the dust settled, the two black-clad figures lurking in the shadows became clear. The mercenaries from before. BQ realized, they are actually back? This is a problem. His blink was on a 3-second cooldown. Dodging another barrage in midair was going to be impossible. He desperately scanned for a foothold, but his heart sank. The dark mages were not giving him a chance to breathe. They unleashed another volley, a streak of lethal energy tearing through the sky directly toward him. BQ twisted his body, barely avoiding the blast, but the real nightmare was just getting started. The rock beneath his boots suddenly shattered. He lunged to keep his balance, but it was useless. Gravity took hold as he plummeted backward. Even then, he refused to let go, his survival instinct screaming. I have to live. I can't die here. But reality was cruel. The other rocks were miles away. With a final, desperate prayer, he spotted a tiny ledge nearby. One last shot at life. Fate smiled. He burned his remaining mana on a blink, lunging toward the jagged surface of that rock. He slammed into the stone, his fingers digging into the cracks. Did I make it? He gasped, looking back. Before he could even exhale, that terrifying orange light flared again. Death was coming for him. Despair finally set in. He was a sitting duck. But just as the spell was about to erase him, a brilliant blue flash cut through the air. The two powers collided in a blinding flash of light. Boom! The shockwave hit like a physical wall, the pressure nearly shaking BQ loose from the cliff. He held on for dear life until the roar finally faded into a chilling silence. Still breathing, he let out a shaky breath. Can't have the main character dying this early, right? He looked up, bewildered. Ice rounds. Infused with lightning? Who the hell could pull that off? To combine two elements into one perfect trajectory from that distance, it was practically superhuman. It was a flawless strike, zero wasted mana, perfect lethality. Truly the work of a master. All eyes turned to the green-haired girl. Her face was an icy mask, devoid of any emotion. The crowd was speechless, faces pale with shock. No way! Did she actually do that? Across the gap, even the mercenaries realized they were completely outclassed by a total monster. Knowing better, they retreated into the shadows. Bake Uciel watched as they vanished into the horizon. He exhaled sharply, thanking his stars for surviving. Finally, he managed to cross over to safety. While the group offered warm greetings, the green-haired girl remained cold, turning away without a second glance. Noticing her, Bike UCL rushed forward to express his gratitude. Hey, wait up! Thanks for saving my skin back there. She threw a frigid look back. I didn't do it for your gratitude. Save your breath, she snapped before walking off. Feeling the sting of rejection, Bake Uciel just muttered, Oh, all right. He stared at her departing figure, finding her mysterious aura incredibly intriguing. Her voice was unexpectedly charming, despite her icy exterior. But honestly, getting close to her seemed impossible. Those thieves had terrorized the local villages. They got exactly what they deserved for their crimes. Usually, the dark magic cult pulled the strings, but that nightmare ends now. I barely escaped death today. Scaling this cliff meant finally entering the realm of the mages. I've finally made it. The cult's reach doesn't extend here. He let out a heavy sigh of relief at the thought. Those hounds have no clue who they're dealing with. Suddenly, a system alert flashed. Episode 2, Stella Academy Admission. Staring at the floating screen, he blinked in shock. Episode 2 already? Guess things are heating up. But seriously? School at my age? He groaned as the group boarded the transport toward Stella Academy. Darkness had swallowed the sky. They were traveling through a desolate, unnervingly silent wasteland. The rhythmic rattling of the carriage wheels filled the silence. Bake Usiel looked completely wiped out. Lost in a deep slumber, he began muttering incoherently. He was slipping into a vivid, haunting dream. Fragments of the past surfaced. A young boy tugged at his mother's sleeve, beaming with pure excitement. His mother smiled warmly. One day, you'll be a great mage, Usiel. I know you can do it. Yet her diaries revealed the brutal struggle of his upbringing. Back then, he swore to master his studies. He wanted to make them proud. He often burned the midnight oil until he collapsed at his desk. She'd always tuck him in. But one day, a doctor's diagnosis shattered her peace. Doctor? What do you mean? My son has mana leakage syndrome? She gasped. Hearing this, his world crumbled in denial. No way. Tears flooded his eyes. Was this truly Usiel's past, or was it somehow his own? The thought made him bolt upright. Dizziness washed over him as he clutched his throbbing head. He glanced out the window. Morning light flooded the cabin. His fellow passenger noticed him stirring. You're finally up. You were thrashing around and rambling in your sleep. Had a bad dream? I was just about to wake you. Suddenly, a shout came from outside. Destination, Lashuicha. They were approaching the gates of Arcanium's satellite city. The carriage slowed to a halt. Break time, everyone. The passengers spilled out to stretch. Bake Usiel felt every bone in his body aching. He let out a massive stretch. Suddenly, his eyes locked onto something or someone standing nearby. The blue-haired girl was staring right at him. He instinctively went to give a friendly wave. Before he could even speak, she ignored him and walked off. The rejection was pretty awkward. He gave a weak smile. Talk about an ice queen. Still, things were actually looking up for once. It was a relief that this world leaned more toward modern tech than the Dark Ages. Magic fuels this world, but cities boast trains, planes, and massive celestial highways for travel. Long-haul journeys were easy. They were scheduled to board a high-tech airship bound for Lashuicha. Lashuicha was just the gateway. Arcanium, the city of magic, is where the real legend starts. It's the home of the High Council and elite academies. Only the strongest mages gather there. Stella Academy is the peak of breeding ground for the world's most brilliant prodigies. It's packed with high-born geniuses. But why did the guy I transmigrated into get an invite? How did he qualify? Then it hit him he hadn't even checked his own status board yet. He summoned his system interface. Status, Mana Leakage Syndrome Level 1, Strength Buff, 3%. Speed up 5%, Agility up 10. Sixth Sense, active. Consumes spiritual energy upon use. A 12-meter Mana Pulse radar activates instantly, pinging automatically the moment any lethal threat enters his dead zone. Scanning his status window, he offered a silent prayer for Bake Usiel's innate sixth sense and scouting prowess. Without these survival cheats, he'd be stone-cold dead. His body was cursed, completely unable to concentrate internal mana. Congenital mana leakage syndrome, a death sentence for most, became Usiel's secret weapon, allowing him to perceive external mana. His sixth sense acted like a spidey sense, flagging incoming strikes even when they originated from his blind spots. Detection mode triggered a bullet time effect, slowing his perception to a crawl whenever a threat lunged forward. He reacted with superhuman speed, a vital necessity since he couldn't rely on mana-fortified physical strength. But every buff has a debuff. Redlining his sixth sense for too long would absolutely torch his mental stamina. Overusing it meant a brutal mental collapse. With a grimace, Usiel swiped over to analyze his raw statistics. Power at 59%, sharpness hitting 97, speed at 81, while his stamina sat at a shaky 51. Unyielding was flat 0, mental energy, 43%. Mana reserves were empty. Blink and leakage syndrome remained active. After processing the data, he realized his starting build wasn't actually the dumpster fire he'd initially feared. The original Bake Usiel lacked precision, but in his hands, this glass cannon was going to be legendary. This world operated on a complex tier system skills utilized levels, while core attributes were measured in stars. A 9-star attribute was basically a myth. After a decade-long grind in this game, I knew the stakes. My personal peak was 8 stars. For now, I'm dumping everything into sharpness to maximize my lethality. Honing my reaction speed is the priority. I can always cheese my stamina and agility stats through other methods. The real boss fight is this mana syndrome. If I don't stabilize it, my clock is ticking fast. Stella Academy is the only place with the resources to suppress this curse. I have no other choice. To stop the literal apocalypse and cure my chronic condition, I have to play the long game. Phew, honestly, this academy arc sounds exhausting. Can someone please just isekai me out of here? A system chime shattered his thoughts. You have unread notifications. He blinked in surprise. Wait, what? I'd completely overlooked these alerts. But before I could tap them, a raspy voice barked in my ear. Move it, Zoomers. We're burning daylight. Uciel had to shove his notifications aside to deal with the present. That blue-haired girl was still burning a hole in the back of his head with her icy, silent stare. Hovering before them was a massive, high-tech flying fortress. The crowd's hype reached a fever pitch as they boarded. Suddenly, the intercom crackled to life. Attention all students. We are now entering the airspace of Arcanium. Please remain seated for arrival. Just then, a group of elitist students locked their targets onto UCL. One guy let out a toxic snicker. Look at this kid gawking at the ship like a total tourist. First time on an airship, peasant? They laughed, clearly marking Bake Uciel as the easiest target on board. He didn't care. Everything in this world was brand new to him. But the mean girl whispers continued regardless. Total country bumpkin vibes. I can't believe Stella is actually lowering their standards to let this trash in. The insults weren't even subtle. Uciel heard every single word of their pathetic attempt to gatekeep the academy. He shot them a quick glance, but they didn't flinch. They were already planning to ruin his reputation. They claimed losers like him would taint the school's prestige. Uciel just stared, completely unfazed by their NPC energy. He let out a weary sigh and looked away, leaving the bullies stunned by his total lack of fear. I'm a literal adult in a teenager's body. Why would I waste time beefing with these spoiled brats? His stone-cold indifference triggered the rich kid's fragile ego. Hey, you! Who do you think you're looking at? Are you looking for a beatdown? The bully snarled, teeth clenched as he stepped into Uciel's personal space. You're dead meat, kid. Suddenly, a melodic but chilling voice cut through the noise. What's all this racket? The bully jumped out of his skin. He spun around, his face turning pale the moment he saw her. A girl with striking long hair emerged from the shadows. The crowd gasped. It's Princess Hong Bi-yun. Uciel watched closely. So, this was the legendary Bi-yun. A literal princess was now standing before them, radiating an aura of absolute frost and royal authority. The princess of Adalbert Kingdom commanded the entire room. Without a single word to the trash, she walked past. Uciel watched as the Ice Queen vanished into the ship. The entitled heir flashed a warm grin, bowing with a hand over his heart as he offered a courtly greeting to Her Highness. Before he could even finish, the princess pierced him with a glacial stare, completely icing him out as she walked away. He stood there, jaw-dropped and utterly humiliated, while she maintained her frigid silence, disappearing deeper into the hall. Disappointment rippled through the stunned onlookers, while the princess swept past Bake Uciel without a second thought. A sudden realization struck him. She was the world's ultimate antagonist. In the original lore, Bi-yun was a pillar of the game. She was destined to clash with the heroine, but regardless of the player's path, Bi-yun's fate always ended in a brutal death. Most endings saw her meet a gruesome demise, or take her own life, after being ruthlessly tormented by the entire academy. It was as if the developers harbored a personal vendetta, forcing her to endure every possible indignity for the sake of drama. Bake fell silent, recalling her legendary status among the player base for being as untouchable as she was famous. She was undeniably breathtaking, but her aura was so lethal it felt like she'd end anyone who dared to breathe her way. His stomach let out a violent growl, forcing him to shift focus. Hunger was the new enemy, and he needed to refuel. Making his way to the second floor, he stumbled upon a stall overflowing with shimmering, high-end pastries that looked like edible gems. He grabbed a treat at random, but his face drained of color the moment he saw the price tag. Pure robbery. He forced it down anyway, though he stepped out looking like a man who had just watched his entire bank account evaporate. Seriously? He groaned inwardly. Whenever I eat at the Arcanium, I end up completely broke. Is it always like this? Suddenly, the intercom crackled to life, announcing their arrival at Arcanium in exactly 10 minutes. All passengers were instructed to head to the ground floor immediately. The message repeated with robotic, urgent precision. Finally, Bak Uciel whispered, a sharp smirk playing on his lips, as the long-awaited moment drew near. The curtain was rising on his new reality. All right, he energized himself with a shout. Let's get this show on the road. Moments later, they reached Stella Academy. Surrounded by an unfamiliar crowd, Bake felt like a total outsider in this new world. He took a stabilizing breath. He'd shaken off the dark demon sect for now, but the real challenge was just beginning. Could he actually survive this place? This world wasn't exactly known for showing mercy to the weak or the unprepared. He needed an edge anything to help him survive. That's when he remembered the unread system notifications from earlier. Pulling up the interface, a prompt appeared. The Stellar Project was granting him a specialized starter reward for his journey. Option 1. A low-tier legacy weapon. Option 2. A nerfed version of an old skill. Option 3. Pure experience points. He scanned the screen, thinking, I guess this system actually has a bit of a conscience after all. But what to pick? He toyed with the idea of the flashlight reflective, almost as if testing the system's limits. The system shot him down instantly, stating that the rank of that gear was way too high for his current standing. It'll be downgraded, the prompt warned. He pivoted, asking about the Super Blink skill instead, hoping for a miracle. No dice. Since Super Blink was an advanced evolution of Blink, it was locked. However, there was a workaround. He could use the reward to buff his base Blink skill. He stood there stunned, fuming at the system's stinginess. Does everything have to be nerfed? He grumbled. The system immediately clapped back with a technical explanation. A lack of narrative energy meant the system couldn't fully manifest high-tier items. He looked genuinely confused by the term. The system clarified. Narrative energy is the fundamental force that bends the story and its outcomes to your will. Exploring hidden plot lines would build his reserves, but for now, he was stuck with the basics as a novice. He was a total beginner, too weak to handle god-tier loot. He waited for more, but the screen stayed blank. What about the crest goggles? He asked. After a brief scan, the system confirmed those could actually be provided. Fine, I'll take them. With a digital flash, the system tossed the crest goggles directly into his inventory. He stared at the glasses with a heavy sigh, never dreaming he'd actually have to rock this dorky-looking gear. But don't let the looks fool you. The crest goggles were essential items for any serious player in this world. They served as an external hard drive for all the intel and secrets gathered during the game's brutal campaigns. Since players couldn't memorize every monster stat, they built these information storage units to keep their edge. Bake was no different. He'd poured all his knowledge into these goggles, and now, he finally slipped them on. A vibrant blue light pulsed from the lenses as a message popped up. Crest goggles description. Absolutely nothing. The level was listed as Memory of a Goldfish, but it didn't matter. These lenses held every secret he'd ever seen. System alert, the sealed Crest directory is now live. Harnessing his mental focus, he navigates the interface as a new notification pings. Alchemy reagents, prime grinding zones, hidden dungeons, and key NPCs. Honestly, he's feeling pretty hyped about this layout. This world is a literal carbon copy of reality, leaving him totally stunned by the sheer scale of his new powers. By linking the system with these specialized specs, he can actually replenish 50% of his depleted mana reserves. Sudden murmurs cut through the air behind him. Wait, is that Azel? You mean the traitor Duke Malf's eldest daughter? The nerve of her showing her face here. Shh, keep it down before she catches us trash-talking. That name sparks an instant connection. BQ Usiel's curiosity piques Azel. Now that he thinks about it, it rings a bell. A unique perk of the Crown's view allows him to scan and index vital intel on every character in this plot. Time for a quick status check. An info panel manifests instantly. Name, Azel Malf. Classification, a total fraud of a hero. An ice lightning mage who weirdly craves pickle juice with her pizza. The disgraced eldest daughter of the Malf bloodline. Her father's execution ruined their house, leaving her scripted to die. BQCL just stares at the screen in silence. So she's just a placeholder hero. But there is one crucial detail about Azel that needs to be highlighted. While this might look like a high fantasy RPG world on the surface, the dark reality is much more complex. This universe is actually mirrored after a romance novel titled Don't Love the Princess, where Azel was the original lead. She lost everything, survived a web of conspiracies, and eventually found her happily ever after with the main guy. Her thirst for revenge nearly faded as her protectors shielded her, yet the story still spiraled into a tragic finale. Fans absolutely hated that ending. But here's the kicker, even though the game uses the novel's setting, the rules have shifted. The narrative diverged completely. In this version, a new character named Flame was added, hijacking the heroine's destiny. Furthermore, Flame has her own unique lore. She was just an ordinary girl from the modern world before landing here. A hardcore fan of the novel, who got isekai'd into the story. Now, the original script has been flipped. Azel was demoted to fake hero status while Flame became the true protagonist. No matter how hard players try to intervene, Azel is hard-coded to die in every single route. That's the brutal price of losing her main character energy. Not my problem, though. Still, I can't shake this weird feeling that I've actually met her somewhere before, probably just my mind playing tricks. After this chaotic, storm-filled day, it's finally time to face the music. A new dawn breaks over Stella Academy. Golden sunlight floods the campus as students gear up in their crisp uniforms. Everyone stands in perfect formation for the ceremony. The headmaster's voice booms. As you know, dark mages are corrupted witches. They are beings who siphoned power from forbidden realms. mutating into literal monsters. They're currently tearing open persona gates and unsealing ancient dungeons to conquer our entire magical world. It is our sacred duty to shield the world from this evil. Immediately, a wave of whispers erupts from the crowd. Starting a brand new arc with this cliché speech? Honestly, this is getting pretty boring. The headmaster's voice continues to echo. Next, we will hold the oath-taking ceremony for our 4 top-scoring freshmen, the elite representatives of our new class. Please, take the stage. The Academy's top prodigies step forward. It's a parade of high-tier visuals, absolute models with radiant faces. Watching them, Beak UCL gets lost in thought. They've all got that unmistakable main character glow. But among these titans, who is the real star here? That's right, it's him. The principal's voice thunders, representing every single freshman student gathered here today. Ma Yusheng, please come forward. Below the stage, the girls are basically swooning in pure admiration. He's the top-ranked rookie, insanely talented, and looks like a superstar. Even Beak has to admit the guy is impressive. So this is the legendary Ma Yusheng. In the game, this guy is the literal definition of built different. A 9-star mana beast with god-tier potential, he truly believes he is the supreme being under the heavens, an elemental genius who can control everything. If I want to avoid a game over, I need him on my side. I've got to guide him toward the light. Wait, that short-haired girl over there? That's definitely Flame. BQ begins connecting the dots. Since she's also a world hopper, her next move will likely change the entire game. Teaming up sounds like a plan, but if she flags me as an enemy, things are going to get messy fast. What if she rejects me? Regardless, I hold the lore advantage here. I just can't afford to screw this up. Flame is playing a romance novel, while I'm stuck in a hardcore fantasy RPG. I'll win this, no matter what. In this narrative, I'm barely a footnote, completely eclipsed by the legendary heroine, Flame. She possesses the divine gift of purification, yet she carries a curse that brings ruin to her allies. Sticking close to her is a death sentence, so I'll just play support from the shadows. Ma Yusheng finally wraps up his speech, and the crowd erupts into a thunderous, deafening roar. The principal's voice booms, officially declaring today's entrance ceremony at Stella Academy complete. Suddenly, the system pings. Congratulations, you've cleared Episode 2 by infiltrating the Elite Academy. The ceremony concludes, and students flood into a massive lecture hall to claim their seats. Baekyu Sol looks absolutely devastated, drowning in his own thoughts as he stares at the floor. Going from a college graduate back to a high school freshman? That's a total fever dream. However, he tries to stay positive. This prestigious place definitely has some insane hidden perks. He clutches the Stella watch, the ultimate status symbol of the world's most elite magical institution. Owning this masterpiece grants you VIP privileges and services that ordinary mages can only dream of. He grins, tucking the watch away safely. This is an opportunity he absolutely cannot waste. Suddenly, the doors swing open. A cold, intimidating figure strides in and commands the room's attention. The stone-faced instructor hits the podium, ordering every single student to remain glued to their seats. No breaks, the test starts now. Put everything away except pens. Any glasses must be cleared by me. Yusol is beyond annoyed. A test on the very first day? This place is straight up brutal. Stella's curriculum is legendary for being more savage than the toughest universities back in Korea. This placement exam is everything. It determines your entire hierarchy and class standing for the year. As the papers are dealt out, the teacher's voice cuts through the silence like a jagged blade. You have 45 minutes. The clock is ticking, so don't you dare lose your focus now. For someone who lived through this game's logic, the sight of the exam paper is still pure nightmare fuel. Yusol is sweating buckets. He can't even understand the reading prompts. He is absolutely cooked. This hierarchical test makes the entrance exam look like child's play. The difficulty level is just insane. Students are ranked from bottom-tier grade F to the elite heights of grade S, based on scores. While the top players dominate grade S, Yusol is dead last out of 1,141. He stares at the blank sheet, debating if he should just give up and turn in nothing. I'm already enrolled, so they won't expel me. Maybe I'll just embrace the grade F life. He glances around, seeing his peers locked in, their pens flying across the paper in desperation. Only Ma Yusheng is just vibing, resting his chin on his hand like he's bored of existence. Yusol feels a wave of disappointment. Is that genius already finished? The gap is truly depressing. Yusheng is a literal god born into the continent's strongest family, with a genius-level intellect. Everything is effortless for him, though his ultimate fate depends entirely on how the heroine acts. Even the demon cult villains are obsessed with recruiting this prodigy to their dark, twisted cause. But his family is the real nightmare. Watching such a monster only makes me feel more pathetic. Wait, I'm such a clown. I can just use my blink glasses to solve this whole problem. They helped me grind library skills before. It's a massive gamble, but I've got nothing to lose. He reaches into his jacket, heart hammering, ready to slip the glasses on and cheat destiny. Suddenly, the proctor looms over him. "Hold it right there. What's the deal with those glasses? I warned you all eyewear must be inspected first. Hand them over right now for a check." Yusol's heart drops. He completely forgot that rule. He slowly hands the artifact over, trembling. The proctor scrutinizes the frames with eagle eyes, while Yusol practically melts from the intense stress. If he realizes these are illegal magic glasses, I'm getting expelled instantly. This is a total disaster. He prays for a miracle, but then the damn system notification pops up at the worst moment. System. Missing part of blink glasses detected. Summon it now? Yusol's soul nearly leaves his body. System. Don't you dare move. The instructor was still scanning those glasses with high-level mana. Finding zero traces of foul play, the teacher handed them back. "I don't sense any mana here, but ask for permission next time." BQ flinched, then quickly forced a cheerful grin. "Understood, sir." Inside, he breathed a massive sigh of relief. If that original feature had actually triggered, he'd be totally cooked. Snapping the frames back on, he suddenly looked like a top-tier scholar. Instantly, every answer flashed before his eyes. Smirking, he began scribbling. "I've hit the literal jackpot. Could he actually take first place? Goodbye, rank F. Hello, rank A." The dream was finally real. But as he was mid-sentence, the teacher's voice cut through the air. "Pens down. Time is up." Magic suddenly surged across the room, snatching every exam paper before another word could be written. As his sheet drifted away, Beak's face crumpled. He looked like he'd just swallowed a lemon. "Wait, I only managed 3 questions?" Panic set in as the teacher gripped the stack of exams. The teacher flipped through them and froze, eyes nearly popping out. Meanwhile, Beak felt completely defeated. Maybe escaping rank F was just a pipe dream. It was all a bit much for him. As he pulled off the glasses, the teacher's head snapped toward him. "Hey, you over there. Hand over those glasses right now." BQ's heart nearly stopped. "Yes, sir. Coming right up." The teacher examined them, frowning. "This is impossible. Someone fetch Dr. Graven. Immediately." Beak's mind raced in total confusion. What was going on? Why the sudden, intense interrogation? He'd been so careful to hide his cheating. Had he been caught after all? Game over. Later, in the infirmary, the teacher's voice shook with nerves. "Well, doctor, what's the verdict?" Peering through a lens was the legendary necromancy expert himself, the terrifying Dr. Graven. "Correctly solving this is beyond suspicious," Graven whispered. The teacher leaned in, sweating bullets. "So, he definitely cheated?" Graven chuckled darkly. "Cheated? No. Not even close. There's zero dark energy here. This kid. He solved this using nothing but his own talent." BQ played the victim, limping slightly with a wounded look. Graven's eyes sparkled with genuine amusement. "Huh. Fascinating. I never expected to see such a rare case in my final years. Professor Lee, apologize at once and nurture this talent," Lee stammered, his face turning bright red. Bowing his head in shame, Lee turned toward the boy, his voice filled with awkward regret. "I judged you wrongly. Please, forgive me." Beak smirked internally while keeping his eyes shut tight. "Oh, I cheated all right," he thought. "But if that system kicks in, I'm toast." "No worries, sir." Hours later in the faculty office, the air was thick with the scent of ink and grading. Suddenly, Lee gripped a specific exam paper, his knuckles turning white as he stared in disbelief. He couldn't believe the ink on the page. "Professor Lee?" A voice chirped, breaking his trance. "Is that the freshman results?" Lee managed to mutter a shaky, "Yes, that's the one." A woman smiled brightly. "I've heard this year's crop of rookies is absolutely legendary." This was Professor Edel Timon, a powerhouse serving on the Stello Academy's prestigious High Council. "Indeed. We've got monsters from the most elite fire magic bloodlines entering the fray this semester. Princess Bian of Atalbot is here, along with the Scalvin Empire's golden heir, Jeremy Scalvin, a genius who crushed his siblings in a throne war at age 12. Pure, raw talent. Even the heir to the Full Moon Tower, Hewan Ryong's own flesh and blood, has enrolled." Edel raised an eyebrow. "Testing such high-tier prodigies must have been a total nightmare for you. It's a massive challenge, but this year, it's going to be wild." Lee nodded slowly. "I'm glad you're intrigued. We've completely overhauled the exam format for these elite students. The first 3 questions? Impossible for any normal student to solve through mere academic study. They're intricate riddles designed to test pure instinct. Most students would just skip them immediately, but skipping them was the trap. It takes a true monster to decode them under such pressure. Old-school rote magic is officially dead. Now, students face complex puzzles that no textbook could ever prepare them for. It's the era of tactical instinct and creative warfare. Yet, that final exam question? It defied all logical solutions. Over 1,000 students surrendered, leaving their papers blank. 100 others tried, but failed to find the truth. Only 3 freshmen survived that mental slaughter. First was Ma Yu-song, a legendary genius who appeared like a comet. He's a total enigma with no known clan. Then there's Flame, a prodigy handpicked by the principal himself. Despite her commoner roots, her raw talent rivals the elite. Finally, there's Baek Yu-seol, a guy with zero reputation. Everyone expected the prodigies to shine, but Baek, his entry scores were straight-up bottom-tier garbage. Yet, he miraculously crushed the 3 hardest problems, ignoring every other question on the exam entirely. Standing in stunned silence, Professor Lee Han-wool didn't notice his colleague approaching with a curious grin. "What's up? You seem obsessed with this kid's score," she teased. Lee Han-wool could only stammer in confusion. I just can't explain these results," he admitted. The older woman sighed, her gaze turning sharp. "Standard formulas are useless here. You solve these with instinct, not books. Do you think he's a genius?" Lee Han-wool pressed for an answer, but the elder remained cold. Could just be a lucky fluke. She turned and vanished into the shadows, leaving the professor standing there, completely lost in his own thoughts. Desperate for answers, he dug into Baek's admission file and found a shocking hidden note attached to it. It was a special admission all because of the boy's insane, high-level mastery over the blink ability. No wonder the principal scouted him personally. Combat magic focused entirely on blink? That is absolutely wild. This was getting interesting. We'll soon see if he's just a lucky fraud or a true hidden monster. Once the results dropped, the academy split the students into ranks. The atmosphere on campus was electric. Chaos erupted as everyone rushed toward the bulletin boards, hearts hammering against their ribs in pure anxiety. "The lists are finally up. I'm literally shaking right now," one student cried, terrified of their placement. "If I miss Class A, I'm dead meat at home." Meanwhile, Baek trudged along, feeling totally discouraged. It felt surreal. He never thought he'd actually have to check a physical board for his own destiny. In the game, it was just a quick click. Now, he had to face the music in the flesh. A random student stared at him like he was a freak, and the toxic whispers began immediately. "Is that him? The loser who got 0 in practical magic? No way. How did trash like that get in?" Stella's standards are hitting rock bottom. Baek blocked out the haters. He had bigger fish to fry. Only one thing mattered: finding his name on that list. Everything else was just background noise. He scanned the boards frantically, but his heart sank. His name was nowhere to be found. "Did I actually fail?" he panicked. "Did those 3 questions ruin me? I'm totally cooked." As he wallowed in disappointment, the crowd's chatter took a strange, hushed tone of disbelief. High-ranking heirs were barely making Class A. Even the perfect theory gods were stuck in the lower tiers. Why were they all staring at the top list and whispering his name? Baek felt a cold shiver. "Screw it," he thought. "I've probably already failed, so I might as well see the damage." He pushed through the crowd, and his eyes nearly popped out. His name was right there. It didn't make any sense. Was there a glitch in the system? What kind of madness was this? At the very peak stood the legendary Rank S, the absolute elite of the prestigious Stella Academy. Unlike the mixed classes, S rank was reserved for only 41 absolute monsters of the craft. Baek rubbed his eyes, his brain short-circuiting. I actually got placed in Rank S? This was a disaster. Being in the same class as the game's main protagonists was a death sentence. Getting involved with them only shortens my lifespan. I can't even escape this script anymore. I guess I'll just have to play it cool and survive. But elsewhere, a darker storm was brewing. In a secluded corner of the academy, a sharp slap echoed. Princess Eon reeled back in shock. "You failed every single question," her mentor screamed. "Even the girl from that falling duchy outperformed you." The woman's eyes glowed with lethal fire, a terrifying display of raw, elemental. Professor Hong Yi, Princess Bion's biological mother, continued her cold lecture. "You failed to solve problems that even mindless insects find easy. That makes you lower than vermin. Look at your pathetic self and reflect." "Understood?" Bion whispered a weak "yes," as her mother's irritation simmered. Glaring sharply, the woman sighed, her voice trembling with suppressed bitterness. "Listen, Bion, do not become a failure exiled from the kingdom like me. This teaching position is a joke. You cannot become our family's disgrace." She leaned down, cupping her daughter's face with a deceptively soft touch. "You must surpass your older sister. That is your only purpose." Then she flashed a loving smile that never reached her cold eyes. "You get it, right?" Bion's face burned with a deep, painful flush. After a tense moment, she choked out, "Of course, mother. I understand." But deep down, those words were nothing but a desperate, hollow lie. She was lost. She'd only survived by acting like a programmed machine. Now, the magic circles and formulas were way beyond her current level. She'd never seen these concepts before. Panic began to claw at her. She broke down, tears blurring her vision. "Why must you torture me like this?" Meanwhile, the elite S-class students had finally gathered for their first lesson. Baek Usiel sat alone at the top, looking like a man facing execution. He'd been tossed into a den of absolute freaks and overpowered monsters. He wasn't there to make friends, but the toxic whispers started immediately. Why is a loser like him here? The students couldn't hide their contempt. Our families are protesting his placement. They want to know his real rank. The school claims he's qualified, but honestly, the whole thing feels rigged. The gossip cut through the air, and Usiel heard every single insult. Feeling like a total outcast, he wondered if he was being set up. These kids had grinded since birth. They weren't going to accept a fraud. To them, having him in their class was a personal slap in the face. Grades determine everything here. In this world, the hierarchy is absolute. You either prove your worth or get kicked down to the bottom. I'll deal with them later, Usiel thought, scanning the room's legendary figures. He recognized them from the game. Now, they were his actual classmates. It was surreal. These iconic game characters were breathing the same air. In a few years, these teens will be the continent's most famous legends. But 5 will eventually betray the council, including the dangerous Ma Yusheng. If I can stop their corruption now, I can change the future. Suddenly, Professor Lee Hanwall entered. All right, quiet down and take your seats. Recognizing that commanding voice, Usiel immediately turned toward the podium. The powerhouse professor stood tall. It's an honor to meet such talent. I'm your instructor, Lee Hanwall. The room instantly erupted into hushed awe. Dude, he's slain nearly 1,000 high-rank demonic beasts on his own. He's a level 7 war mage. We're in the presence of a god. Seeing their stunned faces, Hanwall spoke up to regain their focus. This year is promising. We'll spend 3 years forging you into weapons. Give me your absolute best. Any questions? The lesson began, but the door suddenly creaked open. Princess Beyond stumbled in, her cheek bearing a nasty, fresh bruise. The class went silent in shock. Usiel's jaw dropped as he wondered why she was late and injured. Looking completely drained, she bowed to the teacher. Driven by curiosity, Usiel equipped his crowbar glasses. Instantly, a holographic status window flickered to life. Meet Beyond, the fire-wielding villainess. She's a self-loathing mage who survives on red ginseng, candy, and lattes. In the Achillea Chronicle, the mother is pure evil. Remembering the plot, he realized her death was already set. Her doom is inescapable. If Hazel is consumed by fire, Beyond is destined to burn right alongside her. It's just the grim reality for a villain. Honestly, I'd rewrite her ending if I actually had the power. But I'm no savior. Feeling a wave of melancholy, he sighed and pulled off his glasses. After her excuse for being late, the teacher pointed her toward a seat. Baek Usiol just sighed. He felt terrible for her, yet he knew he had to maintain a safe distance. Then, it happened. Lost in thought, he didn't notice Beyond approaching. Her eyes were a storm of resentment and deep sorrow. She stared him down, leaving him totally stunned and unable to process the sudden, heavy tension. Beyond suddenly claimed the desk right beside him. Baek Usiol's mind went blank. Wait, what? What's the play here? Is the original storyline finally starting to fracture and distort? Once the class settled, the professor took the floor. Listen up, before we dive into today's lesson. We're holding the wand inheritance ceremony. Classes S and A will be participating together. Baek Usiol felt a headache coming. An inheritance event? Sounds annoying, yet he couldn't help smiling. He was secretly hyped, anticipating the massive chaos this event would surely bring. Stella Academy revolves around 2 legendary milestones, the Soulmate Pact and the high-stakes inheritance ceremony. At a top-tier school like Stella, this ceremony isn't just tradition, it's a massive power move. Soon, the elite students gathered in a mystical hall. Professor Lee Han-wol surveyed the crowd. Is everyone present? We've prepared wands ranging from common ranks to high-tier artifacts. Step forward and choose your partner, but remember, exchanging them later is nearly impossible. Choose wisely. Hearing this, Baek Usiol realized the professor was leaving out the most crucial part. It wasn't the students doing the choosing. In this world, the power dynamics were flipped. Magic wands only respond to those they deem worthy. High-level gear is useless if there's no resonance. You can't just buy power. He stepped toward the floating weapons, eyes scanning the glowing artifacts. He hesitated, caught in a loop of indecision. Which path should he actually take? Normally, he'd grab a low-rank tool to fly under the radar. But as a Class S student, picking trash would make him a permanent laughingstock. Suddenly, a deceptively simple wand caught his gaze. Wands are for lightning-fast mages and knights. Staffs? Those are for bishops banking on one massive blast. It's a choice between rapid-fire utility or a single, god-tier nuke. Whispers began to erupt. Check him out. Since he's Class S, his resonance must be insane. Baek Usiol knew he was being targeted. The vultures were waiting for him to fail. He tuned them out. Let the extras gossip. He wasn't about to waste energy on literal NPCs. Hey, you, a voice called out. Confused, Baekyu Seol turned to find the source of the interruption. A stranger with a punchable face stood there. Who are you? What do you want? The guy smirked with pure arrogance. The name's Uslik. Remember it, Baekyu Seol. BYS searched his memory. Nothing. This guy was clearly some D-tier minor character he'd never heard of. He gave a bored, indifferent shrug. Cool story. Anyway, Uslik's face twisted as he crossed his arms. Which wand are you eyeing? Whichever one I grab first, BYS replied casually, making Uslik scoff. Stay in your lane, commoner. Don't reach for the stars unless you want to crash and burn. Don't embarrass Professor Lee. BYS looked at him like he was a bug under a microscope. He turned away, throwing one last jab. Sure thing. Just try not to trip over yourself, okay? The mockery hit Uslik like a physical blow. His face turned a dangerous, boiling shade of crimson. He snapped. You little bastard. You think you're better than me? You want to go right now? So annoying. Baekyu Seol wanted to ignore the brat, but some people just beg for a reality check. He exhaled a sharp, disgusted sigh. Reaching into his pocket, he slid on his glasses. Game on. A system window flickered to life. Uslik Chekbalin, noble heir of the Marquis and Prince Jeremy's loyal lackey. Dissatisfaction level, 3. He shoved his glasses away, sighing at the lackluster data before him. Was that really all? He looked up with a weary groan, searching for any hidden potential in the kid. Uslik gestured toward a weapon with pure arrogance. Watch closely, he barked, because that one is mine. Baekyu Seol's eyes widened. It was the Edmary staff, the absolute crown jewel of the entire collection. High-tier staves are strictly for pro mages. Usually, no matter how gifted a student might be, rookies max out at low-tier gear. Even professionals rarely touch anything beneath the mid-ranks, making high-grade staves incredibly rare. Aside from the legendary Edmary, this treasure was strictly for show. No student could ever tame it. Suddenly, the instructor's voice cut through. Choose your weapon, he commanded. One by one, the hopeful trainees stepped toward their chosen relics. As everyone made their picks, the room erupted in a brilliant explosion of azure light. Whoa! Haewon scored an Amicot, the crowd gasped. A mid-tier wand already? No way. Prince Scalvin secured a mid-ranker too. Surveying the chaotic scene, Baekyu Seol noted Princess Beyond's success. She had claimed the Suaviter Lahaven, another solid mid-tier pick. Multiple mid-tier resonances? This class was insane. Uslik fumed, his teeth grinding in pure salty envy. Screw this. Just watch me, he spat. With a surge of reckless ego, he locked onto his target. He marched forward, ignoring the shocked whispers. Wait, is that Uslik? Someone cried in alarm. Is he really aiming for a high-tier staff? Uslik reached out, a cocky smirk plastered on his face. Behold real S-class talent, he thought. His fingers clamped shut around the ancient wood. Static hissed instantly. Then boom, a violent shockwave tore through the air, blinding everyone in sight. The light was deafening, but Baekyu Seol didn't flinch. He had seen this coming a mile away. Total failure. The staff's raw power blasted Uslik backward like a pathetic ragdoll. He crumpled to the floor, face twisted in denial. The surrounding students froze in absolute horror. He is hurt! Call the professor, now! They shrieked as panic gripped the entire hall. Why go for the impossible? That kind of recklessness is just suicide. Usol could only sigh. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Seriously, kid, you should have just stayed in your lane. You should have quit while you were ahead. But then, a new figure stepped toward the artifact. This guy was whistling, radiating pure main character energy. The staff's true master had finally arrived. The outcome was already written, and that swaggering legend was none other than Ma Yu-sung. He locked eyes with the weapon, a confident, winning grin spreading across his face. He knew he had this. As he reached out, the crowd's whispers turned into a thunderous roar. Is he seriously going for the high ranker? No way he can tame that beast. Ignoring the haters, Yu-sung calmly placed his hand on the pulsating, ancient relic. He gripped it firm. Holy light flooded the room, but he stood unyielding, a total rock. The pressure was insane, forcing everyone to shield their eyes from the blinding radiance. Like a boss, Yu-sung had successfully bonded with the staff. He held it high, a triumphant smile lighting up his face. He looked like a god. The other trainees stood there, jaws on the floor, unable to process the miracle. No way. A freshman just tamed a high-rank staff? That is freaking impossible. How? Yusol just sighed. He knew this was coming. From this point on, everything changes. His legend was just beginning. Suddenly, Yusong's gaze locked onto Yusol, sending a chill down his spine. Why was he looking over here? Yusong approached with a warm smile, but Yusol's blood ran cold. Every instinct screamed danger. Is this guy nuts? Why the hell is he smiling at me? Then, it clicked. In the original game, Flame claims the Teravan staff. But right now, the timeline is fracturing. If Flame grabs that staff, Yusong will acknowledge her monstrous talent, triggering his route. But if she fails, Yusung will spiral down a dark, unrecognizable path. To bait Ma Yusheng, Flame was his only winning move. With that scheme locked in, Beak Uciel tracked her down. She was eyeing a mysterious magic staff, yet her hesitation was obvious. That's when Beak realized it was the legendary Terravin. Heart racing, he focused intensely on her every move. As Flame approached the relic, he watched her back, whispering to himself, "Just take it." Once Ma Yusheng notices her, this whole story gets the perfect, cinematic ending I need. But just as he prepared to celebrate her claiming the Terravin, the girl abruptly pulled back and walked away. The shock hit him like a physical blow. What went wrong? Could the main character actually hate the ultimate weapon? Is she clueless? Or is she missing some vital intel? This is bad. Flame is supposed to resonate with any gear. That's her MC plot armor, after all. But if she picks some trash-tier staff, my entire roadmap is cooked. I can't just sit here. I need to intervene and force that Terravin staff into her hands right now. Focusing his mana, he targeted her coordinates and activated Blink. In a literal flash, he materialized right behind her. Flame's instincts flared as she sensed a presence. She spun around, eyes wide, wondering how he'd close the gap so fast. Beak Uciel flashed his most harmless NPC-style smile. "Hey there, just checking in. Totally casual. Haha, just curious which staff caught your eye." Flame shot him a deadpan look. "Why do you care? Mind your business." Playing it off as awkward, Beak stammered, "Oh, I just thought you looked a bit lost and needed some expert advice." Flame wasn't buying the act. "I don't need your help. If you're done being weird, I'm out." She turned her back on him instantly. Beak reached out, desperate to stop her. "Wait, just a second." Something was seriously off. In the original lore, Flame was supposed to be the friendly, social butterfly protagonist. Why is she giving me the cold shoulder? I can't let her walk. My entire survival depends on this plot point. Summoning every ounce of his courage, he shouted, "Hold on, I'm seriously just trying to look out for you." Flame snapped, her annoyance peaking. "You're acting like a nagging mother. Go worry about your own failing grades. You haven't even picked a weapon yet, so stop meddling in mine." But Beak wasn't about to back down now. He pushed further. "Look, I just feel like there's one specific staff that's your literal soulmate." Flame finally exploded. "Are you trying to lecture me? What could a guy like you possibly know?" Beak flinched under her intense glare. He spiraled internally. Did I overstep? Or does she just refuse to listen to a low-tier extra like me? Well, the thing is," he stammered, his confidence crumbling under her boss-level pressure. "I've heard great things about your potential. Surely you're aiming for that one, right?" Flame looked confused. "Which one?" "The Terravin." Seeing her finally pause, Beak forced a shaky smile. "Exactly. That's the one meant for you." Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the air. A deafening blast echoed through the hall, wiping the smile off Beak's face. A crushing aura radiated outward, drenching him in cold sweat. His eyes nearly popped out of his head as a magic staff streaked through the air and slammed into his grip. "Wait, what is this?" he gasped, trembling. His blood ran cold. Why was he holding it? This legendary loot was supposed to belong to Flame. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." Beak stood there, frozen, unable to explain this massive glitch in the Matrix, his face twisted in pure embarrassment and terror. Meanwhile, Flame just stared at him, completely speechless. Then, a terrifyingly sharp smile crossed her lips. Well, looks like you were hiding some talent, Beak." Her tone gave him goosebumps. "It's nothing, I swear," he squeaked, his knees knocking together in pure fear. Internally, he was screaming, "It's over. My peaceful life is ruined. I'm officially a target now." The ceremony concluded, but the chaos was just beginning. Later, on the academy grounds, the atmosphere remained heavy. Flame walked silently, trailing behind a group of gossiping trainees while lost in her own thoughts. She caught snippets of a heated conversation up ahead. "Yo, did you hear the insane news from today? 2 students actually pulled high-level epic staffs." The other guy gasped. "For real? That's impossible. Only 5 legends have ever done that, and now we have 2 more? This year is absolutely cracked. Get this, one of them supposedly only used basic blink magic during the entire test. How is that possible? My parents said blink is a rare gift, but this is just sus, right?" The rumors were spreading like wildfire. Even Flame couldn't wrap her head around the anomaly. Seeking an escape from the noise, she headed to the study hall. Breathing a sigh of relief as the silence hit, she whispered, "Finally, some peace and quiet after that disaster." No matter where I turned, the academy was buzzing with the same frantic whispers. The shocking news that 2 students scored a legendary high-level epic staff had gone viral. Yet, his identity remains a total mystery to me. How did he claim the Terravin staff? I literally devoured the original novel 3 times before waking up in this world. But this guy, Beck Ucille, he's a total ghost. Legend says Teravan is unclaimable, yet he's synchronized with it effortlessly. Honestly, it feels like he's flexing on me. Whatever, obsessing over this anomaly is a total waste of my energy. A voice suddenly shattered her thoughts. Flame, are you hitting the books today too? Snapping back to reality, she flashed a radiant, picture-perfect smile. Internally, she sighed. These kids are wild. Do I really look like a nerd? Her blonde friend teased, Girl, you never just sit around doing nothing. You're always buried in some textbook. Oh, definitely not, Flame replied with a sheepish grin. Another girl leaned in, confused. But Flame, why kids? Aren't we literally the same age? Crap. Flame scrambled for a cover story. It's just a weird habit of mine. Back home, everyone treated me like a grandma. Haha. In reality, she knew she was trapped inside a fantasy novel. Playing the part of a naive teen was impossible. Then, another voice cut in. Flying solo for your study session? She glanced back at a cute redhead. Wait, was that Jackie? Her aesthetic was practically a carbon copy of the original. Masking her suspicion, she chirped. I heard about that exclusive special meeting, so I'm heading over there now. Anyway, I've gotta run. Let's definitely grab drinks later, no excuses. Without waiting for a response, Flame spun around and dipped, throwing a quick bye-bye over her shoulder. 1 second, she was the life of the party. The next, her expression went ice cold. She couldn't help but think, for a grown woman, this student life is exhausting. Being a teenager again is a struggle. Deep in her own head, she completely ignored the path directly in front of her. Bam! Her forehead slammed into a solid chest. She stumbled back, clutching her skull with a painful, ow! That actually stung. Suddenly, her obstacle spoke. The voice was velvety and warm, making her eyes snap upward in surprise. Wait, Wanriang? He looked down, concern etching his face. Are you all right? Where was your head at just now? You were rushing like crazy. Flame stammered. Oh, I'm totally fine. Just clumsy. He studied her face intensely before pressing further. You look pale. Is something bothering you? His gentle tone hit her hard. Flame's heart fluttered. Was he actually worried about her? She blushed, whispering, No, it's nothing, really. Sensing her bashfulness, he pivoted. Good. Glad you're okay. Heading to the study hall, I assume? Spot on. Are you heading to the elite senior training zone yourself? She asked, trying to sound casual. Grinding every day? I can't afford to be lazy. Wow, talk about dedicated. Hey, don't tease me. Oh, really now? Their playful bickering felt like a classic rom-com moment. Finally, he just went quiet, staring at Flame with a soft, affectionate smile. He snapped his fingers to break her daze. Well, I'm off. Catch you later. He strolled away, leaving Flame completely dazed. She was waiting for a K-drama confession, but it never came. Kinda disappointed, she turned around, muttering, Seriously? What a buzzkill. He's so dense. Suddenly, her blood ran cold. Lurking behind a nearby door, that purple-haired girl was spying on her again. Flame tentatively raised her hand to wave, but the girl just vanished into the shadows without a word. Talk about an awkward vibe. Whatever. It was getting late, and she didn't have time for a high-speed chase. A few minutes later, she reached the hallowed halls of the study room. Pausing at the entrance, her mind began to race. The special supplemental meeting. In the original plot, this was the legendary showdown where Hazel and Beyond would both appear. She was dying to witness the OG heroine and the villainess go head-to-head. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the doors open. Bingo. Every major player in the story was already gathered inside. Her gaze scanned the room, landing on the host, an intimidating A-rank trainee. Even he looked shocked by today's high-profile turnout. This crowd was stacked. Flame swiftly snagged a seat in the back row to get a bird's-eye view of the chaos. This was supposed to be a basic level-up session for struggling students, but looking around, it felt like an S-rank celebrity convention. Then, her eyes locked onto something impossible. Ma Yusheng and Baek Usiel were actually vibing together. Seeing them chat like old friends sent a jolt through Flame. Why would the elite Ma Yusheng waste time on a literal who, like Baek Usiel? This made zero sense. This wasn't just some random encounter, it was suspicious as hell. How could Baek fail every basic question, only to crush the 3 most hellish challenges? Maybe, from the start, Baek Usiel knew S-rank was just one answer away. Was he truly a seer? Baek Usiel sighed, wishing his fame would just vanish instantly. Ma Usiel was the total opposite, watching him with a predatory grin. Usiel, he smirked. Why is a beast like you hiding here? You're too cracked for class. Got a secret? Baek laughed awkwardly. Just curious, Baek lied. He was capping hard. Bad scores forced him here. Why was this guy so obsessed? Quiet down, the instructor barked. Eyes up front, everyone. Today's topic? Those brutal ranking test questions. They were so rigged even seniors called them Hell's Gate. Kyle acted confident, but internally, he was freaking out. Why were these elite students sitting in a low-level room? Kyle wanted to flex on these noobs, then an idea hit. He eyed Beak Uciel. This was his chance for glory. Beak was entrance exam trash. Time to humble the guy. Pay attention, Kyle commanded, radiating main character energy. Let's tackle question 1. It's a total mind game. It's a trap for the weak. Watch and learn. Everyone scribbled notes while Ma Uciel leaned toward Beak. Well, do you think his logic is actually legit? Beak blinked, confused. Ma was watching with a creepy smile. Beak turned pale. What was this guy's deal? Is he really asking me for a critique right now? Beak barely understood the basics, let alone hell questions. Honestly, no clue, Beak whispered. Nearby students caught the vibe and started whispering. Did Beak just say Kyle messed up? The audacity. Kyle overheard the shade and stopped mid-sentence. He grit his teeth, fuming. Beak felt a sudden chill. What's with the glares? Beak thought, feeling totally sus. Kyle snapped his chalk. Fine. Apparently, I made a mistake. Beak was floored. Wait, what just happened? Kyle's expression shifted into a victorious, petty smirk. Beak UCL, why don't you come solve it for us? Beak's heart dropped. Is he for real right now? He glanced at Ma, who looked totally surprised. Ma gave a fake trusting look. Go get him, champ. It was a total setup. They were baiting him. Beak stood up. Fine. You want a show? You got it. I'll humble this guy so hard he won't recover. All eyes locked on him as he reached the podium. He pulled out his glasses. Wait, these aren't questions. They're just bad puns. The riddle. Why does dust multiply? Why would Mother Earth's tears make things worse? Simple. The dust isn't growing. The dust is literally crying. They're just divided worlds. Bak Yu-seol clutched his head, wondering what kind of lunatic dreamt up this trash. It was pure insanity to him. Yet here it was a massive, high-stakes wall, blocking their entire path forward. Regardless, Kyle wasn't seeing some boring math equation. He was trying to force the very elements to submit. His process was impossible to describe. Even though his logic was flawed, he somehow stumbled onto the truth. It smelled like pure luck. If he faced a similar trial, he'd definitely crash and burn this time. The spotlight is mine now. With that thought, Baek Yu-seol faced him. Look, I can't actually teach you the solution, but I'll show you exactly where you failed. Kyle froze, gasping in disbelief. What? But Yu-seol wasn't done. You're focusing on earth foundations. But what if it's water or wind? Can your clumsy method handle those elements? Kyle countered. I'd just find an easier way. Yu-seol shook his head. Then, you'd need a million different tricks. Solving it like that is just a fluke. You're nowhere near the actual intent behind this complex riddle. Kyle's jaw dropped as he tried to defend himself, but only static came out. He had to face reality. You're right. Seeing Kyle's shattered expression, Baek Yu-seol felt a sudden pang of guilt for being so harsh. It felt like he'd crushed the guy's dreams. Still, he pressed on, determined to finish what he started. This is how it's done. Kyle leaned in, scribbling furiously. Even the elite students below were locked in, taking notes. This scene left Flame absolutely floored. She couldn't wrap her head around why everyone was hanging on his every word. Weren't Hazel and Beyond supposed to be debating? Instead, they were obsessively dissecting his every move like fans. Is this for real? It was madness. Outside, the sun began to dip, painting the sky in deep, ominous purples. Ma Yu-song waved a cheerful goodbye to Yu-seol. Catch you tomorrow, he beamed, radiating pure, annoying protagonist energy. Yu-seol gave a half-hearted wave back. Later, once Ma Yu-song vanished, Yu-seol slumped, burying his face in his palms. Damn it, he groaned. If I keep tangled up with that guy, my life is over. I seriously dread tomorrow. He wanted to erase the guy from his existence forever. He stared down at his small, weak hands with a sigh. It's that stupid phone, he realized. It's drawing too much heat. I've got to ditch it before Yu-song digs deeper. He hated these forced encounters. Curiously, Flame was the only one who had managed to pull off a blink move. As he headed out, he spotted Beyond lingering nearby. She looked lost, her usual icy composure replaced by a shadow. What's her deal? He wondered. She looks totally wrecked, but honestly, that's not my problem. He tried to ghost her, walking straight past. Suddenly, her voice cut through the air. Bak Yu-seol. He stopped, blinking in confusion. Was she really calling him? I need to ask you something, she blurted out. Yu-seol was stunned. He never imagined a perfect goddess like her would ever need anything from a nobody. Beyond? What is it? He asked. She didn't waste a second, cutting straight through the tension with one question. Why did you stay silent about the answer earlier? Yu-seol froze. He couldn't exactly say he didn't know. How do you explain a question that's literally unanswerable? She was clearly overthinking things, giving him way too much credit. He scratched his head awkwardly. I just didn't see the point. Bion's eyes sharpened as she cut him off. I get it. You're hiding your true cards, right? Her logic made his brain hurt. That wasn't it at all. I'll make it worth your while, she declared. Yuseol's eyes nearly popped out. Wait, what are you saying? Bion's gaze was unwavering. I'll compensate you fairly for your knowledge. Yuseol stood there, completely speechless. Huh? Before long, the two of them had sneaked into Professor Han Wenryong's private office. After a bit of digging, they tracked down their placement tests. Yuseol caught a glimpse of Bion's near-perfect score. I seriously don't get it. Why pay me to solve just 3 random questions on a test? Personal reasons, she replied coldly. Just keep talking. He shrugged. Fine, whatever you say, princess. After scanning her paper, Yuseol frowned. You're stressed over this? You only missed 3. I failed almost everything. Aren't you embarrassed to ask me for help? Bion didn't even flinch, not in the slightest. The only thing I'm ashamed of is being too blind to see the logic behind those answers. If you can clear this fog for me, I'll do anything. Yuseol was floored by her intense dedication. Wasn't she supposed to be the ultimate model student? He thought. But why me? You're royalty. You've got 1,000 elite friends to ask. Why hunt down a guy like me? Stuttering, she revealed a shocking truth. Out of 1,141 freshmen, only 3 geniuses solved those legendary riddles. And you're one of them. The main lead's jaw dropped. He gasped. Wait, for real? What did you just say? Looking flustered, she explained those questions had no official solutions. Only Ma Yusheng, Flame, and him managed to crack them. That is what makes me feel the most ashamed. Shaken, the hero's hands trembled as he struggled to process the news. Hold on, wait. He shot up, his mouth hanging open as he let out a frantic shout of total disbelief. Those were trick questions, right? Impossible to solve. How did you not see that while you were working them out? After hearing her, he sat back down, trying to swallow his rage. Suddenly, a realization hit him like a lightning bolt. This is insane. Now I get why I was tossed into Class S and why Flame is constantly stopping me. I'm clueless about this world's game mechanics, but Flame? She's likely different since she's read the entire novel already. Even if she doesn't know the game's plot, she definitely knows the story's lore, including those 3 cursed questions. But once an unscripted extra like Baek Yusul appeared, Flame was forced to recognize his existence as a real threat. Damn it. No wonder she's been acting so strange lately. It all finally makes sense to me now. Confused, Bion asked, What's up with you? He just shrugged it off coolly. Oh, nothing. Don't sweat it. Just remember your promise to help me out in exchange for these answers. Don't go backing out on me now. Bion agreed. He smiled. One small favor. I need you to forge my staff into a lethal demonic sword. Your kingdom's legendary blacksmiths can handle that, right? Bion stared at him, completely blindsided by the weird request. Only bottom-tier mercenaries use those. Why would a future archmage like? He cut her off before she could finish. It fits my vibe. No more calling it a flaw, okay? He gave her a hopeful look, waiting for her answer. Think you can pull it off? She paused, then nodded with total confidence. Consider it done. That's child's play. This is the best response I could ask for. Our hero grinned, feeling like he'd finally hit the jackpot today. His face flushed red with excitement. Wonderful, the sun is finally shining. Composing himself, he began to explain the solution. Pointing to the paper, he stated clearly, to crack this, you first have to flip your entire perspective upside down. The girl looked lost. Change my perspective? How am I supposed to do that? He knew her fatal flaw. Her magic was way too rigid and mechanical. She was trapped in her own logic. In the original story, she only realized this as a sophomore after a crushing defeat against the legendary Flame. I can't fix her overnight, but I can steer her right. Do you know what a riddle is? He asked. Taken aback by the sudden question, she blinked and replied, A riddle? I think I've heard of them before. Let me give you a classic example. Tell me, what exactly is located right between the knees? Resting her chin on her hand, she racked her brain before guessing. The inner space between them, right? He smirked. Wrong. Bion's eyes widened in confusion. Huh? How? That makes no sense. Why is that? He leaned in, emphasizing every word. I'm asking which letters are in the middle of the word. K-N-E-E. Realizing she'd been played, she felt a wave of irritation wash over her. He totally got her good. Seeing her about to blow a fuse, Baek Yusul waved his hands nervously. Hey, take it easy. Don't glare. Sit down and look at this. It uses complex formulas and tricks you haven't even learned in class yet. What I'm saying is, when you hit a wall, you've got to think outside the box and be creative. But can you do this alone? Bion went silent, feeling a sting of shame. No, I can't. It's impossible. The protagonist finally exhaled, a small smile playing on his lips as he continued his intense lecture. Mastering spells is vital, sure, but for a real mage, The ultimate priority is seeing the world through your own lens. Magic is chaotic and unpredictable. Even the tiniest shift can change the entire outcome of a powerful spell. But you're stuck in your textbooks, only seeing what you have been told to see. Those theories aren't real world. You're great at analyzing, but you're missing the spark of true creativity. After his deep dive into her psyche, Beyond fell silent once more, absorbing his harsh but necessary truth. She chewed on his words, unable to hide her surging emotions. Her hands began to shake uncontrollably. As she spiraled into despair, he started sweating. Rubbing his head awkwardly, he tried to dial it back. You get what I mean, right? Even if it sounds a bit too deep and abstract, Beyond nodded with pure confidence. I totally get it. Our protagonist flashed a strained, awkward grin to hide his confusion. Man, this is wild, he thought. I'm just yapping at this point. Shaking off the absurdity, he locked back in. Glad you're on the same page. Next one. What does a rider tell his horse before bed? Her expression went blank for a second. Tilting her head, she rested her chin on her palm, deep in thought. Putting a horse to sleep. What could it be? She racked her brain, but the answer remained frustratingly out of reach. I give up, she muttered defeatedly. He chuckled. Easy. The answer is, time for bed. He didn't stop there, firing off more bizarre riddles. Why do lazy workers never fail? Because they work while lying down. Okay, next. What happens if a rock and paper race each other? No clue? Simple. The rock rolls ahead while the paper is stuck. They just aren't built for speed. He glanced at Beyond, but the words died in his throat. Her reaction was unexpected. She was vibrating with pure intensity. Brows furrowed, she looked like she was fighting her own inner demons in silence. Jaw clenched and visibly agitated. Seeing her like this gave him actual chills. Is she about to snap? He wondered, sweating. Pushing through the fear, he threw out one final question. Last one. What do the clouds whisper to the sea when it pours? She dialed in her focus to 100%. You can do this, she told herself. After a brutal mental battle, her chaotic aura finally began to settle. I'm falling for you, she blurted out. He blinked, genuinely stunned. Whoa, spot on. A hit. She finally nailed one. That tiny bit of validation hit her like a massive level up. A wave of pure, unfiltered joy washed over her face. Beyond was practically glowing. Her eyes shimmered with a rare spark. That sudden shift in energy caught him completely off guard. Whether in-game or in real life, he'd never seen her look so genuinely happy. He couldn't help but feel the vibe, too. Precisely what I'd expect from a princess. Your brain is on a whole different level. The heavy flattery made her turn bright red. All right, relax with the praise, she huffed, playing it cool. Next question. Quick, he grinned. All right, let's see if you can handle this one. They kept at it until the moon took over the sky. The school grounds were mostly empty, save for a few stragglers. Finally, he headed home alone, looking like a total zombie, with massive dark circles under his eyes. I'm such a clown, he groaned. I literally wasted 3 hours on dad jokes just to mess with Beyond. She probably won't even remember this tomorrow. But, man, Beyond is something else. She's destined for greatness as a witch, but she's way too stiff. Her rigid mindset is a total glass jaw. I'm supposed to exploit that, but why do I feel like such a villain for teasing her? Whatever. I've got to turn Terravan into an elite sword mage. This is just the beginning. I miss the days when I could solo everything. But those days are long gone. No time for a pity party. I need those reference books for tomorrow's grind. Let's move. After wandering for a bit, he reached his destination. Should be right around this corner. Did I lose the spot? Then, he spotted it. Found it. This is the place for sure. Before him stood a crumbling, ancient building. Inside, it was a graveyard of dust and heavy cobwebs. This place is a total dump, he thought, scanning the room for the elusive shopkeeper. He knew a secret, though. This shop owner loves to play dead, pretending to sleep while watching every move. Hidden within this nameless shop was a legendary treasure, Mila's personal notebook. The top student from 10 years ago. Back then, a single click would reveal it all. Now, things are different. Physical books are the only way to level up here. Every page read directly shapes your growth. Forget the mainstream stores. The real OP items are tucked away in these shady, hidden shops. No signs, no hype, just pure gold. He stepped deeper into the shadows to begin the hunt. Getting his hands on Mela's secrets would be a total game changer for magic engineering. Perfect scores would be a breeze. Though, honestly, my glasses alone are enough to carry me through. Maybe there's a hidden recipe here. Suddenly, a flash of green caught his eye, a book tucked in the corner. Found it. You finally track down your prize and lunge for the grab, but fate has other plans. Another hand clamps down on the cover simultaneously. You both freeze, locked in a tense, silent stare down. Wait, Azel? Is that really you? She blinks in total confusion, wondering how this stranger even knows her name. "You're a legend around here," the boy smirks. Recognition finally sparks in her eyes as she pieces it together. He's from the supplement group. "You're Bake Siwoo, right?" Hearing his name, Siwoo feels a sharp pang of disappointment. He was hoping for a bit more. Man, she totally forgot our encounter before the academy started. But Azel just carries on without a care. "That debate was impressive," she admits, "though it's a shame your answers were so incomplete." That's when Siwoo remembers something. Azel was actually the one person who failed to crack those exact same questions back then. Still, she brushes it off. "Nice meeting you." With a cold shoulder, she pivots and vanishes into the aisles, leaving him stunned by her icy vibe. Whatever, at least the book is still up for grabs. Siwoo reaches out and finally secures the treasure. He steals a glance at Azel, wondering what brought her here. She's still wandering the rows, looking totally lost in thought. She's hesitating over every single volume. Every time she picks one up, she immediately flips it over to check the price tag. Her shoulders slump with a heavy sigh before she reluctantly slides the book back onto the shelf. It's a painful sight. Seeing her struggle tugs at Siwoo's heartstrings. He finally realizes the harsh reality of why she's lurking in this dusty shop. This place is a haven for secondhand bargains and broke students. For a fallen noble like Azel, it's the only option left. When you've lost everything to the demonic race, you lose your pride too. Siwoo can't help but feel a wave of pity for her. It's tragic. A former princess reduced to scrounging for used textbooks and counting every last penny. The fear of being broke is real. In the original story, her fate was even worse. She was destined for a brutal, early death. She's basically the unluckiest NPC in the entire game, a tragic stepping stone for the true protagonist's journey. Shaking off the gloomy thoughts, Siwoo gathers his own haul. He picks out several massive, heavy volumes that look like ancient bricks. "I'll take these," he says, slamming them onto the counter. Right then, Azel arrives at the register with her modest selection. Her jaw drops as she eyes his massive pile. She's clearly stunned that he can afford such a mountain of knowledge. "You're buying all of these?" the clerk stammers. Siwoo gives a casual nod, stealing another look at Azel's gloomy expression. "You okay?" he asks softly. She just brushes him off with that signature indifferent gaze. "Seems you've got a sharp eye for quality," she mutters. Siwoo flushes slightly, wondering if that was a compliment or a low blow. "Which ones specifically?" "All of them," she says, pointing at his stack. She's totally baffled by his choices. "Why on earth are you studying advanced sealing theory? It's an ancient, clunky art that costs a fortune in rare materials. In an age of high-tech alchemy and magic engineering, that skill is basically a dead relic." "Oh, these? Yeah, they're pretty much useless," Siwoo admits with a smirk. Azel stares at him like he's lost his mind. "Wait, so you know it's garbage and you still bought it?" "Absolutely," he replies, acting like it's the most natural thing ever. "That's exactly why I picked them." Azel's eyes go wide. She's completely lost. "What? That makes zero sense." Siwoo hugs his mountain of books with a devious grin. "Because everyone shares your opinion?" he whispers. "It means the curve for this class will be a total cakewalk. Catch you later." He waves and heads out. He walks away feeling like a total genius. Azel was right. Nobody wants to touch this subject with a 10-foot pole. But that's the secret. Less competition means I can coast through with half the effort. I'll be sitting at the top of the rankings while everyone else struggles. This semester is going to be light work. Azel is left standing there, completely stunned. She's dying to ask for more details, but her noble pride keeps her mouth shut. Cut to the next morning at Stella Academy. Azel's heart is racing as she navigates the halls for her first void theory lecture. It's her big debut. She tries to calm her nerves, thinking that an easy A class shouldn't be too stressful. At least, that's what she hopes. She steps into the classroom and sees that it's already packed with students. She snags a seat in the back, but the whispers from the desk next to her catch her attention immediately. "You taking nihilism too?" "Yeah, but honestly, I think we're screwed." The word got out that this was an easy A, so every genius in the academy signed up. "We're toast." Azel's heart sinks. She lets out a heavy sigh, realizing her easy plan just went up in smoke. The bell finally rings, and the students crawl out of the room looking like they just survived a war zone. "Welcome to the academy." Students grumbled among themselves, complaining about their aching bodies and empty stomachs, while wondering what was on the lunch menu. "Let's just hit the cafeteria and see," they said. Azel felt like an outsider, quietly drifting behind the group with a heavy, discouraged sigh. Her mind was racing. How could she possibly survive this? Securing a scholarship felt impossible if she stayed enrolled in that nightmare of a class. Suddenly, her stomach let out a ferocious growl. Clutching her thinning wallet, she hesitated, debating if a decent meal was worth the financial hit. She did the math. With only 60 meal tickets left for the entire semester, she decided to settle for a simple piece of bread today. On her way to the canteen, Azel's eyes suddenly went wide. She spotted something or rather someone that brought her to a dead halt. Passing by one of the lecture halls, she recognized a familiar face through the glass. It was Bakisiel, sitting calmly inside the classroom. At first, she was baffled by his presence there, but seeing the professor at the podium, the realization hit her like a lightning bolt. This was his registered course. Strangely, the room was nearly empty, filled only with students who had the most pathetic academic records. This professor is a total goner, she thought. He's probably going to lose his job by the end of the term. But then, a genius idea sparked in her mind. If she joined this loser class, she could breeze through with top marks without breaking a sweat. She could save all her energy for other subjects and lock in that scholarship. Wait, did Bekhiziel already figure this out? It was unbelievable. Had he actually scouted this easy ride course beforehand just to cheese the grading system? No, that's crazy. I'm just overthinking things. It has to be a total fluke. Shaking her head, she quickly walked away. The scene shifts to the following morning. As the sun climbed high into the sky, the students were surprisingly locked into the lecture. Professor Layden's voice echoed through the hall. Surely you all understand the origin of magic, he began, gesturing to the boards. He spoke of a primordial, white-robed sage who gifted magic to the world, allowing humans and other races to harness the elements. Professor Layden, a renowned specialist in moon deities, continued his deep dive into the ancient lore of their world. He explained how the sage taught natural magic to elves, material magic to dwarves, and elemental magic to the human race. What followed was an abstract, mind-numbing lecture. Our protagonist sat there completely lost, feeling like a duck listening to thunder. Is this really my life for the next 3 years? Back in the game, I could have skipped all this boring lore with a single click, but I can't ignore this. This specific lesson might actually hold the key to finding the true ending of this world. Of course, that's just my own theory for now. Suddenly, he noticed someone sitting right next to him, who looked strangely familiar. He turned his head and nearly jumped. Azel? What on earth was a main character like her doing in this bottom-tier class? In all my playthroughs, I don't remember any major characters enrolling in this specific course at this point in the timeline. The professor continued his passionate speech. Human curiosity didn't stop at elements. Mages began traveling the world to steal magic from other species. Even then, their hunger for power was never satisfied, but they eventually hit a wall where there was nothing left to learn. Before vanishing without a trace, the primal mage left behind 12 divine moons. Does anyone here know their significance? A clear, confident voice cut through the silence. They are the divine guardians tasked with maintaining the continent's power balance. It was Azel. She didn't stop there, adding, "Legend says they've been hidden across the lands, carrying out their mission for a millennium." The professor looked genuinely impressed by her answer. "Precisely," he exclaimed, leaning forward with excitement. Each moon possesses a unique, world-altering power. For instance, the sixth moon represents the peak of the red summer. It carries an eternal, blazing red flame that can never be extinguished, even under the most extreme conditions. If you were to dive to the very bottom of the Alamanca Sea, you could still see that red fire burning today. The male lead felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Is this teacher insane? He's talking about that place like it's a tourist trap. If any living soul dares to trespass into the territory of the Alamanca Sea King, they'd be dead before they could even blink. Unfazed, the professor gestured to another map. And this is Bevian, a massive oceanic whirlpool, frozen solid by the 12th moon. That is the power of the blue winter. Each moon is formidable alone, but miracles happen when their powers are combined. A curious student raised their hand. "Professor, what kind of miracle are we talking about?" Layden's expression suddenly turned somber. "Nobody knows. Those divine moons fell into a deep slumber over 1,000 years ago." The protagonist realized the professor was onto something. "I actually encountered some of those divine moons back in the game, but I only ever managed to track down 5 of them during those insanely difficult limited-time events. Based on all the data I've gathered, no other gamer has ever found more moons than I have. If my hunch is right, the 12 moons are the direct link to the true ending that's remained hidden for 10 years. The answer is buried in the content no one has cleared yet. I barely found 5 moons after risking my life countless times. If witnessing the true finale requires it, then fine, I'll reset everything." Meanwhile, at the outdoor training grounds, a colossal sphere of flames roared toward a practice mannequin. Standing amidst the heat was a stunning lady in crimson. "Power isn't the ultimate goal," she declared. "Even the deadliest strike is worthless if it fails to connect with its mark." Meet Professor Hong Yul, the fire elemental specialist. She patrolled the grounds, watching her students bridge the gap between theory and combat. Suddenly, a surge of energy caught her attention. Without warning, a massive blast of scorching heat lunged toward the target position. The fiery projectile slammed into the dummy with a deafening roar. Total carnage followed. A violent explosion rocked the area. Initially, the professor watched the sheer display of force with a satisfied grin. But that pride quickly turned to sheer bewilderment. As the thick clouds of soot and smoke began to drift away, the silhouette of the practice dummy emerged completely unscathed. Not a single ember had scorched its surface. It stood perfectly intact. Hongyul sighed, her disappointment palpable. That is the harsh reality, Bion, the professor stated bluntly. Bion's entire body shivered at the words. She slumped down, her gaze clouded with misery as she wrestled with her failure. She had messed up again. The thought of her mother's crushing disapproval weighed on her like a ton of bricks. "Princess!" a cheerful voice chirped. Bion looked up to see a friend with adorable, bright red hair styled into pigtails. With a squinty-eyed smile, she asked if Bion was okay before taking a seat nearby. "Don't let it get to you." Bion just sighed, her tone icy. "What's the point? Even if my magic was 10 times stronger, I still missed the target." "But your magic is seriously insane," the girl gushed. "I've known you since we were kids, and that was spectacular." Recognition finally sparked in Bion's eyes. This was Arsh Wang, a fellow fire mage she'd known for a long time. The name sounded familiar, Arsh Wang. The rumors of a rising fire prodigy must have been about her all along. Even as a genius, Arsh's raw power was nothing compared to Bion's. Still, Bion couldn't help but admire her precision. "Your accuracy is terrifyingly high," Bion admitted. Arsh blushed shyly, insisting she still had a lot of training to do. Bion stood up, feeling her mood lift slightly. "Talking to you helped. Anyway, that's enough training for the week. See ya." She vanished quickly, leaving the twin-braided girl sitting there in a daze, wondering what just happened. Cut to a pristine, high-class estate. Bion had returned home, looking absolutely drained from the day's events. "Welcome home, princess," a voice rang out. A sharp, respectful woman stood waiting in the shadows. This was Aya Yetterin, Bion's elite personal guard. She bowed deeply as the young mistress entered the room. "I've prepared some warm tea and sweets for you, my lady," Yetterin offered. Bion nodded her thanks. Yetterin then brought up the magic staff Bion had sent for tuning. Apparently, the craftsmanship was top tier, bordering on legendary. Bion nibbled on a cake, her skepticism showing. "Is it really that impressive?" she asked with a tilted head. "There are concerns," Yetterin admitted, her voice trembling slightly. Bion paused, her interest piqued. "What kind of concerns?" "Rumor has it that the staff acts like a parasite, relentlessly draining the mana of whoever dares to wield it." Bion bolted upright, her face pale with shock. "What? Is that some kind of forbidden dark artifact?" Yetterin clarified that it actually resonates with nature's essence, leaving Bion even more baffled by the contradictory nature of the item. How could it drain a user's mana while syncing with nature? If it's that complex, why is it only intermediate rank? Yetterin explained that its erratic behavior is exactly why it's stuck at that lower tier. Normally, its latent abilities would massively buff a mage's output, potentially pushing them into the elite advanced ranks. But because the staff hoards mana without ever letting it flow back, it's practically unusable. Bion lost her cool. Advanced level? How on earth is a regular student supposed to handle that power? Even the seasoned Yetterin looked shaken by the realization. The sheer danger of such an item was staggering. Bion clutched her head, her mind racing. It was impossible for anyone to use unless they had infinite mana, or absolutely zero mana at all. The logic didn't track, and it was driving her crazy trying to solve the puzzle. She rambled on until her voice went hoarse, her frustration reaching its boiling point. Any sane person would avoid that staff. She took a soothing sip of tea. "He's definitely an anomaly," she whispered. Fast forward to the new semester kickoff. Inside a packed lecture hall, the professor was getting fired up. Offensive magic demands total mastery of one's inner core, and there he was, our protagonist, sitting front and center, soaking up every word of the intense magic lesson. This balding veteran was Professor Carline, the expert on mana guidance. "This class isn't optional, folks, it's survival. Your future duels demand mastery over spellcasting and precision aiming." Azel sat nearby, absorbing every word of the lecture. She remained laser-focused while the professor continued his high-energy rant from the podium. Casting unleashes mana from within, while aiming locks onto fixed marks. Now, let's break down the complex trajectory formulas. A target 760 meters north moves south at 12.6 meters per second. Calculate the perfect strike trajectory. What's the optimal distance for Yan Hai's water magic? The teacher paused as he hit the climax. Silence gripped the room. Two students huddled, whispering frantically about the elemental attributes. "What about water magic?" His buddy cut him off. "Unless you're a specialist, don't even go there. Better to stay silent." Is this professor seriously trying to fail the entire class right now? Our hero fought back a massive yawn, completely over it. Seriously? Is this the best he's got? This is pure torture, worse than literature class. Suddenly, the bald professor's voice cut through the boredom. "Beak Usiel, stand and solve this." Our protagonist stood up with zero enthusiasm. "Yes, sir." Internally, He groaned, damn it, why me again? After a brief explanation, he laid out the flawless solution. Done, he announced with total confidence. The professor stared at UCL's brilliant work. Shocked, the teacher shouted, incredible, you solved that effortlessly. You must be a water elementalist, right? UCL brushed it off quickly. Not even close, sir. Fine. Let's tackle the next problem then. That moment changed everything for Azel. She saw him differently now. Soon, the bell finally rang. Students bolted for the exit, but a sharp voice suddenly rang out. Wait! He turned around. You talking to me? He asked. Azel stood before him, determined. Exactly. I need to ask you something. Watching him closely, she realized her curiosity had nothing to do with his official rank. His intellect rivaled elite mages. Cracking that professor's impossible problem was just too smooth. Such speed and precision were insane. That question was university tier way beyond our current level. Even at Stella Academy, few could solve that. Just who the hell is this UCL guy? I had my doubts, but now I'm positive. He's definitely gaming the course registration system. Azel pressed on. What's your next class? UCL froze, totally blindsided by her sudden interrogation. Caught off guard, UCL smirked. Why the interest? Got a crush on me or something? Azel snapped back. Gross. You think I'm some kind of creep, old man? That's literally disgusting. Fuming, UCL retorted. I'm the one who should be disgusted here. Get real. Wait, I'm an adult. Why am I arguing with a kid? He rubbed his neck awkwardly. So, what's the real reason? Azel turned serious. I've been tracking your specific course load. You're cherry-picking classes for easy top grades. Look, I'm not going to play games with you. Where did you learn this tactic? Tell me. This is high stakes for my future. Our hero realized her angle, so that's what this was about. It all made perfect sense now. He laughed it off, waving her away. Strategy? Please. It's obviously just a massive coincidence, right? Catch you later. He turned and walked off, leaving Azel stunned by his cold, careless vibe. What the? She couldn't believe it. Hey, get back here. Wait up, she shouted. He didn't even look back. Swallowing her pride, she sprinted forward to stop him. Just wait, she pleaded. UCL finally halted. Catching her breath, she begged, please, just 1 second. What now? Why are you stalking me? Find a real pro to teach you those tricks. Or just copy me, you've already done the homework. Azel stumbled over her words, face flushing. Anyone can ace divination, so that's fine. But if we share the same high-level classes, I might ruin your curve. Her eyes softened with guilt, feeling bad for potentially sabotaging him. Losing that scholarship would be devastating for him. Yet, despite the stakes, she felt conflicted. He was actually worried about her? Looking at her pouty face, UCL had a sudden thought. Even if she's a handful, she's still the main heroine after all. Then, it happened. She flashed a weaponized, cute look. So, could you recommend just one class? Something easy to ace? I'm literally begging you, he countered instantly. You really think those puppy eyes will sway me? Caressing her cheek with a confused pout, she tilted her head. That's so weird, though. Normally, one look at my top-tier visuals cures any depression, right? But her delusional confidence was making the hero physically cringe. Are you for real? He deadpanned. Hazel flushed crimson, eyes crinkling shut. Haha, totally kidding. I knew you'd react like that, so I brought something legendary to compensate. Compensate? The male lead groaned internally. Kids these days, and their obsession with making up for every mistake. Like a simple apology fixes everything. But then, out of nowhere, Hazel dropped a bombshell. Ever heard of the seventh magic? The hero froze, heart skipping. Yeah, I know it. Really? That's rare. That abandoned tower vanished from history ages ago, she whispered. Her countless enchantments seal the ruins where the tower once stood, barring anyone from getting close. She was deep in her animated storytelling when she suddenly went silent, cutting the tale short. Noticing Usiel's strange vibe, she asks with a worried frown, Wait, what's wrong? You okay? Usiel winces, clutching his head as his mind races. Asterisk. This is huge. I can't afford to lose my cool over this intel. Asterisk. This is exactly how Flame boosts their influence over the male lead. But there's a catch. Flame is playing by the original plot script, and Hazel is in on it too. Usually, she only leaks this classified info to the protagonist, never to a background character like me. Wanting no part of it, he dismisses her with a wave. That sounds like a straight-up horror movie, doesn't it? I'm totally not interested, so let's just drop it. He turns to walk away. Hazel blinks in confusion and quickly chases after him. It's not that scary. Are you seriously afraid of ghosts at your age? UCL gives in with a reluctant sigh. Fine, I'll tell you. Hazel smirks, pushing further. Oh? Why the sudden change of heart? You were just playing hard to get. Maybe that's just my style, UCL retorts, leaning into the vibe. He realizes in that moment that Hazel simply wanting to offer him something was enough. He speaks up, his tone shifting. Look, this isn't about grades, but it's a total game changer for me. You need to sign up for the meditation, Journey to the Void, elective immediately. Hazel's eyes widen in disbelief. Meditation? For a culture credit? But the moon god's tomb is the priority. Do you actually enjoy Zen training? She asks. The male lead falters, unsure how to explain the logic. He quickly spins a lie. My master is a high-ranking bishop, just like you, and he swears by meditation. It's the secret to skyrocketing your magic skills. Hazel gasps. Just by meditating? Drawing on a decade of all-nighter gaming experience, he drops some knowledge the world hasn't discovered yet. For bishops using massive, high-impact spells, meditation is the key to executing complex formulas with surgical precision. Most importantly, the mind is the steering wheel for your power. I've never shared this secret with anyone, but you're an exception because you're actually pretty cute. Hazel freezes, stunned by the sudden compliment. You just called me ugly a second ago, but I guess every girl likes a bit of that talk. She beams. Anyway, I really appreciate it. Even if it doesn't boost my GPA, I'm going to register. Suit yourself, Uziel mumbles, playing it cool. Her goal reached. The girl happily skips away, but as he watches her disappear into the distance, Uziel's expression darkens with worry. He lets out a heavy sigh, his mind spiraling. Asterisk. I spilled everything. I'm terrified of how the butterfly effect will change the future. Asterisk. Asterisk. But I couldn't leave her to rot. If I didn't act, Hazel would face another tragedy. This meditation might be her salvation. Asterisk. As he ponders this, a sudden realization strikes him. Asterisk. Wait, I'm a magician in this world too, aren't I? Why haven't I started my own grind yet? Asterisk. In the game, Uziel was a monster of discipline, conditioning, mana suppression, and rapid leveling. Asterisk. In a game, I could just click a button for XP. Now, it's all on me. I'm already running late. Asterisk. There are no skip buttons or hunting quests to cheese my way through. Asterisk. Still, I owe Hazel a thank you. Asterisk. Eventually, Uziel heads back to the Stella Academy dorms, where every student is stationed. This used to be a fun room decorating feature in the game, but now, it's the only home he has left. Since his village was burned to the ground, this is his sanctuary. The dorms are strictly split by rank. Room size is standard, but the number of roommates is a direct reflection of your status. S-class students claim the penthouse floors. Now alone in his room, Uziel feels the quiet, but he's ready to use it. He exhales a long, steadying breath. All right, it's time to get down to business. He sinks into a deep meditation, focusing his entire being. Asterisk. Reality isn't about stats. It's about mastery. Asterisk. I have to synchronize with this body. In the game, Uziel was a sword prodigy who controlled aura with ease. He moved mana in a perfect, infinite loop, hidden from everyone's sight. But Blake Uziel is a sword genius who once stood at the absolute peak. I have to reclaim that glory. My breath is the conduit for my mana. If I can steadily expand the energy I draw in, I'll truly awaken. Accumulating enough mana in one shot is the goal. Remember, skills don't level up just by hoarding EXP. It's all about the grind. So he spent the entire night training. By then, the clock hit 4 a.m. Dawn light filtered into the room as Uziel continued his training, his body radiating a brilliant golden aura. Suddenly, his eyes flashed pure white. He raised his hands, feeling a surge of refreshing energy through his veins. Pure shock hit him. This was the sensation Uziel had endured since childhood, while battling mana leak syndrome. Though faint, the feeling was undeniable. Suddenly, a system window appeared. Mana leak syndrome has leveled up. Blink leveled up too. Scanning his status panel, Uziel grinned with satisfaction. Talk about a major glow-up. One step closer to my goal. I'll find the true ending no matter the cost. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a lush, emerald meadow stretched toward the horizon under a crisp breeze. Suddenly, a mysterious figure emerged. This was the legendary romantic spot at Stella Academy. Flame soaked in the vibes, finding herself mesmerized. She knew the wind was artificial, yet it felt incredibly cozy. Stella Dormitory is actually a massive pocket dimension. Tucked inside the campus, this realm lets students bend the elements and nature to their absolute will. From sports to high-stakes tournaments, this is where every dungeon, raid, and gate exploration happens. It's the ultimate monster training ground. Back in reality, a sea of students had finally assembled. Scanning the crowd from the back, Flame's sharp eyes did a quick count. Exactly 141 students. 50 students came from classes Aon and Atu, while Class S brought 40. The novel's math was different. Class S was supposed to have 39. Including me, that's 40, but there was a wild card. An extra student? Where on earth did Big Uziel even come from in the original story? The freshman total was 140, and I'm the +1. Wait, Uciel was always part of the novel. Whatever, I'll piece it together eventually. I've got this. After all, I'm the only person alive who actually knows how this novel ends. Just as class was about to begin, the atmosphere shifted. The students standing near Flame started gossiping. A voice piped up, "Hey, Prince Jeremy, did you secure your spot in the Blink class?" A dashing blonde stood at the center. That was him. Looking smug, the prince replied, "Duh, I also joined the soft magic research class." "We joined because you did." He gave a charming, narrow-eyed smile. "Really? Let's back each other up then." Flame watched his silhouette, her mind racing. That's Prince Jeremy, the one from the book. He was obsessed with Azel until she crushed his heart. That rejection twisted his soul into someone dark. He eventually became a cold-blooded villain. He acts sweet, but every move is a calculated trap. I need to stay low to avoid his radar. But suddenly, Jeremy's eyes locked onto Flame. He played the perfect idol, waving with a dazzling smile. Flame awkwardly waved back, her heart racing. She sighed. He's way too handsome. No wonder he's got an army of simps. Still, you can't deny that his inner circle is packed with the Academy's top-tier elites. Shaking off the thought, she walked away. She needed to map out her moves. This was her new reality now. Preparation for the future was key. Unbeknownst to her, her cold departure piqued the prince's curiosity. "Flame," he mused with a smirk. Suddenly, the professor's booming voice snapped everyone back to attention. "Time for basic drills. Before we kick off, I need to gauge exactly what you lot can do. I'm taking the lead here. If you have a problem with my methods, keep your mouth shut. As you know, I hold the power to boost your grade or tank it. Don't test me. Fail to hit the target score, and you're expelled. Now, listen up for today's training mission. We're diving straight into a dungeon sim. I've packed it with lethal traps and savage beasts. Level 1 kills net you 4 points. Take down a level 2, and you'll bag 8. Snag the point staff for 20 points. The top 5 will enjoy exclusive rewards and shopping perks. 0 points means a penalty. If you're too scared to go solo, team up, but listen closely. Squad points are split evenly. However, taking out a fellow student lets you steal their entire score. With a poof, the professor vanished into thin air, his voice echoing, "That's all. Survive." The floor erupted beneath them, sending the trainees into a frantic, screaming tailspin of pure panic. The earth buckled and split wide, as a massive, ancient entity surged upward from the abyss. Flame stood paralyzed, her eyes nearly popping as a gargantuan tree pierced the sky right before her. The realm had completely transformed. It finally clicked. This was the legendary Jack and the Beanstalk map. Instantly, the horizon vanished, replaced by a suffocating wall of emerald leaves and tangled, thick vines. The students dispersed into the brush. Some struck out solo, while others huddled into desperate squads. Flame drifted alone through the foliage, her fingers tightening around her staff as a smirk appeared. "Time to join the hunt," she whispered. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through. "Flame, hold up." It was her fiery-haired rival. She smirked. "Going solo for this practice? That is a bold move." "Oh, Jackie." Flame knew squads offered safety, but she was hunting for a much higher score today. Solo play meant no sharing points. "Sorry," she muttered, her voice colder than ice. "Not today. I need to test my limits alone." Jackie just gave a dry, knowing chuckle and shrugged it off. "Right, you want the whole jackpot." "Fair enough." Flame nodded, but her gut felt a bit uneasy. Was Jackie mocking her or was she just being paranoid? Whatever. It did not matter right now. "Catch you later," Flame called out, turning her back before Jackie could even get another word in. Watching her retreat, Flame felt a flicker of annoyance. Something about that interaction felt totally off. Is she copying my vibe? Forget it. Back to the mission. Things were about to get real. 1 hour into the dungeon crawl, the atmosphere grew heavy and thick with raw mana. Bathed in a faint azure glow, Flame panted, sweat dripping from her brow after a brutal skirmish. "This is brutal," she hissed. "How much longer?" Suddenly, the very air around her turned cold. Her instincts screamed danger. A massive, thorny vine whipped toward her like a strike from a cobra. Flash! She slammed her staff down, unleashing a sapphire blast that collided directly with the monster. The vine shriveled into nothingness. Flame scanned her surroundings, her heart racing with every single breath. Plants that hunt? This dungeon was a death trap. Even for a training session, this was insane. 18 points so far. Not bad. Just one more kill to reclaim the top spot on the leaderboard. She ventured deeper into the thicket until her breath suddenly hitched in her throat. Her eyes widened. A silhouette flickered through the blinding sunlight filtering through the dense canopy. A monster? No. The shape was far too refined. That was definitely a human figure standing there. How could a student hide their presence so perfectly? No matter. It was time for a plan. Activating her camouflage, she balanced her offensive and defensive mana with elite, high-level precision. She told herself that an ambush was the perfect play. Free points were just one spell away. Like a ghost, Flame crept toward the mysterious shadow, her footsteps silent against the damp forest floor. It was UCL. The guy who snubbed every team invite was actually wandering the dungeon solo? How bizarre. Then, she spotted it, the peculiar, glowing ring glistening on his finger. A wicked idea took root. This was the perfect moment to see what he was really made of. While UCL yawned lazily, Flame began conjuring a massive, blinding dome of pure radiance. 15 meters. He was a sitting duck. An intricate, glowing arcane circle ignited beneath her feet. Blazing orange mana surged through her. "Light bullet!" she roared, unleashing hell directly at him. A streak of white-hot energy tore through the air, aimed straight for the back of his head. In a split second, UCL sensed the threat. Blink! He vanished into thin air before impact. As the dust settled, Flame gasped in total shock. Her target was gone, completely and utterly vanished. Her hands shook with frustration. Nobody dodges a second-level spell from that range. It was impossible. Unseen, UCL reappeared right behind her, finally letting out a long, shaky breath of pure relief. "Is she trying to murder me?" he grumbled. "Who just shoots a light beam like that?" If his mana leakage syndrome had not evolved, he would be nothing but a charcoal stain right now. My blink just hit level 1, pushing my range to 12 meters. 2 charges remain in my arsenal. Exploiting the environment could work, but evasion is smarter. I trigger back-to-back blinks to vanish. As Flame fades into the distance, I steal a glance. This gap should keep me safe. Rank 5 is the target, no need for suicide missions. The payout is well within my reach. Massive buffs to strength and stamina await. I'll leave the top 4 spots to those main characters. 3 points left. Suddenly, a taunting voice echoes. "Hey, check this out. Get over here. Look at this loser." A pack of trainees suddenly blocks my path. One smirks. "Oh, if it isn't Uciel from the S-class, it's Raiden, that arrogant prick. He's been making waves in the academy lately." I scan his entourage with pure disgust. Even Jeremy's bottom-tier squad is here. Absolute garbage. But wait, something feels off. How did a nobody like him collect so much loot? Another lackey chimes in. "I heard he cheated into S-class." The blonde leader howls with derisive laughter. "Solving 3 dumb riddles to rank up? Stella totally played him." I sigh, mentally exhausted. Damn, don't these idiots ever get tired of the same old script? Seeing my silence, he gets cockier. "Since we're here, be a good boy and surrender that point staff." My response is short, sharp, and icy. "Piss off." The blonde guy's grin only widens. "Resisting? How cute." He flashes a wicked smirk. "You really think you can take us all solo? You gonna use that blink staff? Hilarious. You don't have a drop of mana in your veins. A staff is wasted on you." I endure their mockery, calculating my next move with only 1 blink. Taking down a high clan noble head-on is suicide, but with 3 blinks, I have a shot. The point staff is my wild card. Plus, this dungeon is my playground. I thrust the point staff toward them with a defeated look. "Fine, here, take it." Thinking I've caved, the blonde prick beams with satisfaction. "Good boy. See? That wasn't so hard. Exactly what I wanted. Enjoy your win for now, buddy. Karma's about to hit you like a truck." He drops his guard. In a flash, I lunge forward and rip a point stick right from his hand. Smirking, I swing the stick like a mace, shattering his defensive formation into jagged shards. He snarls through grit teeth. "You filthy commoner, how dare you!" He's launched backward, slamming into a massive tree. Raiden's eyes turn bloodshot with pure fury. "You trash!" he screams. But the entire pack freezes. I've already vanished into thin air. Before they can blink, my voice echoes from behind. "Over here, idiots." Raiden whips around to find me standing there with a mocking, shit-eating grin. "Close one, but thanks for the loot." I wave 2 point sticks as Raiden loses his mind. "Hand it over." I just smirk. Hard pass. I'm starting to like these. My plan worked perfectly. These point sticks are Game Changers knowledge I picked up by total accident. In the game, they were just useless glitch items with 0 market value. But here, their insane durability makes them immune to magic. They're tougher than most high-tier artifacts. Mages love them, but in the hands of a physical brawler, their raw power is unleashed. Raiden's jaw clenches so hard I hear it crack. That lowlife, how dare he steal from me? He barks orders at his frozen lackey. "Don't just stand there. Kill him." Suddenly, the earth tremors. The dungeon is shifting. "Damn it, not now," Raiden screams. "Group up. Charge your mana," he bellows. "We cannot let that rat escape." The chaos is my golden ticket. I bolt into the shadows before they can stabilize. "He's booking it," a lackey shouts, pointing at my retreating figure. Staffs ignite with a lethal blue glow as they aim a barrage of spells my way. "You're dead meat." A terrifying wave of energy surges toward me. "Well, crap," I mutter. "Not bad for total scrubs, but you're still way too green." Just as the mana surge was about to swallow him whole, he popped a blink and vanished. Raiden's squad fumed with impotent rage as he flickered through the air once again. Damn it, he's a blur. He was moving too fast for their eyes to track. While they stared ahead blindly, UCL had already ghosted behind them like a bolt of lightning. A confident smirk played on his lips. 10 years of pro-tier gaming made manipulating the terrain child's play. Meanwhile, Raiden was absolutely losing his mind. Just one hit, that's all we need. Suddenly, the entire dungeon shuddered violently, sending a wave of panic through the group. Raiden barked out orders. Stay sharp, he's still lurking nearby. Just wait for this tremor to pass. The moment he shows, we jump him. But stay focused, one slip-up, and the mana backlash will kill us all. He scanned the shadows frantically, only to lock eyes with UCL, who was standing right in his face. Before they could even twitch, UCL smashed his staff into their formation with bone-shattering force. The barrier began to groan. Fractures spiderwebbed through the magic, and then chaos. The spell began eating Raiden's own men alive. Boom! The formation detonated, showering them in magical debris. Pure mana backlash. Our hero made a quick break for it, watching the spectacular friendly fire from a safe distance. A satisfied grin spread across his face. Mission accomplished. As the smoke cleared, Raiden coughed through the grit. Damn you, UCL, you absolute snake. UCL just flexed 3 stolen staffs with a smug wink. I'll be taking these. And hey, if I ever get a girl, I'll gift them to her. Peace out, darlings. Raiden stood frozen. Wait, when did you snatch those? Give 'em back. Surveying the wreckage of their dignity, UCL chuckled to himself. Heh, that's more than enough. Taking their last scrap of gear would be overkill. Man, that final scene was pure cinema. I've had my fun. Later, with one last blink, he vanished, leaving the gang trembling in pure fury. Raiden went ballistic, his screams echoing through the dungeon walls. You're dead meat, you bastard. Unbeknownst to them, a young female apprentice had witnessed the entire flex from start to finish. Miles away, UCL celebrated his haul. Talk about a payday. In a fair fight, I'd be toast, but dungeons are my playground. That's the power of a veteran. Wait, he paused, a strange shiver crawling down his spine. The realization hit too late. A massive sphere of roaring fire was screaming through the air directly at him. His eyes widened in absolute shock. What in the world? Is this for real? Where did this firestorm come from? One fireball after another rained down like artillery strikes on his position. The ground erupted in a series of violent blasts. Trapped, he could only spam blink to stay alive. He scrambled for cover, sweat dripping down his face. This wasn't normal magic, it was overkill. Looking at the scorched earth, he barely had time to breathe. Who's trying to incinerate me? That was almost a one-way trip to the afterlife. Through the thick, swirling smoke, a silhouette emerged. A girl stepped forward, her voice cutting through the haze. Hey, commoner, why'd you leave that last staff behind? The pyromaniac was none other than Princess Hong Bian. Yusiel's jaw dropped. Why is she here of all places? He tried to play it cool while scratching his ear. Look, maybe you're mistaken. I can't just take everything. Besides, what's it to you? She blinked, slightly taken aback by his bluntness. Maybe she had been a bit too tactless. UCL narrowed his eyes suspiciously. Wait, are you planning to wait for me to loot them, then rob me? What kind of crazy talk is that? Don't forget I'm the one who taught you. She puffed out her chest. I am royalty, but if you want to understand me, then prove it in a duel. I don't steal from peasants. I'll simply defeat you fair and square, and take what I want. The male lead stared at her, exhausted. His blood pressure spiked. Whoa, slow down. Why are you picking on the little guy? Little guy? You? Hongbian scoffed. Don't act innocent. I saw the way you played with them. You were treating them like toys. Your magic is top tier. She checked the time, looking slightly worried. Her mother would kill her if she stayed out much longer. Suddenly, Hongbian sensed a sound approaching. Raiden's crew was closing in, screaming for blood. Where is he? Find that bastard UCL, now. That guy is a menace. Princess Bion recognized the thugs immediately. UCL started backing away. She hesitated, caught between her duel and the approaching mob. Should she wipe them out first? Taking on 6 elites at once was suicide. She had to bide her time until their mana hit rock bottom. That tiny window was her only shot. Meanwhile, Uziel refused to play the victim, launching a surprise assault from behind. He unleashed a magical burst right into their formation while Hong Bian observed from the shadows, unimpressed. She was shook that low-tier commoner had more tricks than just blink. Still, these goons were nothing compared to her. But compared to a country nobody, these guys were supposed to be pros. They should have ended this already. Biting her lip, she locked in. A massive magical circle erupted beneath her feet, crackling with intent. Infernal energy swirled around her like a cage. It was time to stop playing and burn it all down. She let loose a scorching beam of pure destruction. Across the clearing, Uziel's danger sense went haywire. Moving like a blur, he triggered Blink to vanish just in time. Then, the realization hit him like a truck. The crushing heat was suffocating as a wall of fire chased him down. He spammed Blink, leaping into the sky, then diving back down. Bion's eyes never left the blaze until, boom! A deafening blast rocked the forest. Our hero finally let out the heavy breath he had been holding. Damn, her magic is lethal. If my gut had not whispered to move, I would be a pile of ash. I have burned through 2 blinks already. How do I even counter this? Suddenly, Bion broke the silence. Why are you not using your staff? She demanded. Uziel could only stare at her, completely deadpan. I am literally holding your staff right now. Bion frowned. What about the one the Academy gave you? Uziel froze. Wait, I totally forgot about that. Bion just scoffed at his obvious acting. How long are you going to play dumb? She hissed, her eyes bleeding into a terrifying, demonic crimson. She glared at him with pure resentment. I am putting my life on the line here, and this random guy treats it like a joke, she snapped. Fine. If you will not fight for real, then I will personally put you in the dirt. Uziel felt a cold shiver race down his spine. I am fighting for my life, lady, but Bion just cold-eyed him. Stay soft and you are dead. A hellish inferno rose behind her as her gaze hardened. Today, I am ending your little winning streak. Cutting the chatter, she commanded the fire to consume him. Uziel's composure finally shattered. He scrambled left, then right, barely dodging the tongues of flame. He was fighting a losing battle. The sheer scale of her power left him breathless. He hit the ground, exhausted, but he had to move. He sprang up, staring down the towering inferno. Even if I blink, there is nowhere to hide. Her range is just too wide. I am trapped. Then, a faint sound echoed from the shadows behind him. He whipped around, eyes widening as a crazy plan took shape. Without a second thought, he activated Blink. He soared upward in a flash, reaching the only spot not yet choked by the scorching heat below. Ducking behind a massive rock, Uziel exhaled. That was a near-death experience. He peered down at the chaos. I got lucky that time, but the odds are stacked against me. Getting near Bion is practically impossible. Those flames act like a sentient shield the moment I step close. I understand this play all too well. I have scrapped with fire mages before, but her output is legendary. On open ground, I would be toasted. I would lose in 60 seconds flat. Uziel watched as fire rained down like a meteor shower. Wait, the guidance rods! A wild grin touched his lips as his resolve hardened into steel. This match is not over until I say so. With a roar, he dove headfirst into the fire. Embers stung his skin as his monovision snapped into focus. Suddenly, his instincts reached a supernatural peak. The world slowed to a crawl. To his eyes, her high-speed spells were moving in slow motion. Bion gasped, her jaw dropping. No way. How is he parrying magic with a physical blade? Is he even human? Inside the storm, Uziel felt every millisecond tick by with agonizing clarity. This was no longer a game. This was raw, visceral survival, where every muscle fiber mattered. As he closed in, her mana barrier flared, but his sixth sense was screaming the path to victory. Bion was spiraling. How was her absolute advantage crumbling before her eyes? In this forest, I should be invincible. Left with no choice, she prepared to overload her magical output. She poured every ounce of mana into her staff, while Bake Uziel aggressively shredded her spells with frantic swings. Scrambling for survival, he ducked behind a boulder to catch his breath. Defense alone wasn't going to win this duel. Shattering Hongbion's barrier with that staff was his only shot. He sprinted through the flames, his pace accelerating. Closing the gap, he triggered Blink to vanish and reappear instantly. Hongbion stood frozen, completely blindsided by his speed. Frustrated, she gnashed her teeth and spun around, but Bake Uziel was already deep inside her fiery battlefield. Their eyes locked amidst the chaos. Bake Uziel knew the drill. Approaching a fire mage meant a massive knockback. A 2-meter radius blast was coming to repel all intruders. Anticipating the impact, a smirk played on his lips. For a rookie, it is a death sentence. But for a 10-year veteran like him, it was just another Tuesday. He had danced this dance before. The magic shockwave hurled him back, leaving Bion jaw dropped in pure horror. Undeterred, Bake Uziel rebounded instantly to surge forward. He unleashed a decisive strike with those wooden sticks against her defenses. The membrane began to spiderweb with cracks. Bion watched in disbelief, her mind racing to understand his impossible feat. Bake Uziel did not let up. He hammered away with relentless intensity until the magical shield finally exploded into shards. Bion collapsed, battered from the backlash. Bake Uziel approached with a bright grin, took a seat, and simply declared, "Victory is mine." Bion's ego was shattered. To lose so pathetically, she hissed through the humiliation. "Who are you?" Rising slowly, Bake Uziel gave a casual shrug. "I am just your average student." Then, His gaze shifted mysteriously. You hiding over there? Why don't you come out? Realizing she was caught, the flame girl emerged with total caution. She crept toward them, her eyes wide with shock. Flame couldn't help but ask, how did you spot me? Baek Usiel struggled for a logical answer, so he just flashed a forced smile. Let's just say it was a hunch. He played it off as luck, but in reality, the reason was simple. His senses were finely tuned to mana. It was pure magical intuition. Still, there was no way Flame would buy such a lame, generic excuse. She narrowed her eyes skeptically. A hunch? Then explain how you shattered a high-level barrier with a common wand. Baek Usiel went stone-cold silent. Flame pressed him further, demanding a real explanation. Or was that just luck too? He realized then that this isn't some fluffy romance novel. Flame's suspicion was logical, but the truth remained hidden. He could not spill his secrets yet. After a quick mental scramble, a brilliant idea surfaced in his mind. He waved the rod cheerfully. This thing? Well, it is surprisingly sturdy. Flame's patience snapped at his ridiculous claim. Sturdy? Are you serious? Do you think swinging a stick like a caveman can break top-tier magic? If that were true, every knight in this kingdom would be curb-stomping our mages by now. Baek Usiel internally agreed. She was right, but he had to keep playing dumb. His vague answers fueled her confusion. Flame was reaching her limit. Something is definitely off about you, and I never had the chance to ask. Who are you really? Beyond stood nearby, feeling like a ghost, but she was hanging on to every word in shock. She had been eavesdropping, and the revelations were staggering. Meanwhile, under Flame's interrogation, Baek Usiel started breaking a sweat. His mind raced for an exit strategy. Was his cover blown already? It had barely been a single month. Should he just come clean? No, he could not. Flame didn't trust him, and revealing the truth would be suicide. He had to play it safe. Looking her in the eye, he said, "Despite your suspicions, I am no villain." Flame looked totally lost. Wait, what does that even mean? Baek Usiel offered a weak, awkward smile. Like I said, I am only here to help. Flame's confusion intensified. You want to help? Help with what? Your vague answers are driving me insane. What are you saying? But Baek Usiel had already checked out. He waved a casual goodbye over his shoulder. I wish I could stay, but time is up. Catch you later. Flame stood there fuming, ready to explode. But today's stunt had completely flipped the script for Beyond. She was clearly cooking up something wild. Baek Usiel just hoped they would finally leave him in peace. Suddenly, those same wooden sticks came soaring at his head. It was Beyond's doing, and she looked just as stunned. How strange, she whispered to herself. Baek Usiel clutched his throbbing skull, spinning around with a furious roar. What the hell? If you have a beef, say it to my face. Stop being so passive-aggressive. Beyond just blinked, her expression unreadable. Honestly, I really thought you would catch them. The tension was thick enough to cut with a sword. What exactly was the princess thinking? Imagine dodging legendary traps but failing a simple catch. Baek Usiel stood frozen, stung by those irritating words. He knew mana sensing wasn't infinite. This sharp intuition had finally hit its absolute breaking point. Playing it off, he faked a grimace. Ouch. My mental stamina is cooked, so my mana radar is officially offline. A splitting headache surged as his focus crumbled. Curious, Usiel turned back to ask about her sudden move. Why'd you toss this? Bayon shrugged. Take it, winner. These point sticks were basically pure gold in this exam. Is she sulking? He wondered. Snatching these would definitely send his ranking straight to the moon. Nothing else here mattered. Shrugging, he reached down to claim just a single point stick. All right, thanks for the gift, but one is enough. Keep the rest. With that, he prepared to dip. Without a second glance, he pivoted, giving a casual wave as he disappeared into the distance. Grinning like a villain, he imagined them staring in awe at his overwhelming coolness and unmatched strength. A merciful king showing pity to the defeated. He desperately hoped they were swooning over his noble aura. Reality check. They weren't impressed. Flame sighed. Rita, that guy is a total weirdo. He's definitely unhinged. Bayon agreed, completely exhausted. Just a commoner with a fried brain, I guess. His logic is just gone. Yet, deep down, a burning question remained. Who exactly was this mysterious Baek Usiel? Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, Professor Lee Hanwal and his colleagues were glued to the live monitors. The hyper-realistic footage caught everyone's breath. Someone in the crowd gasped in pure shock. This year's S-class is full of monsters. Lee Hanwal turned his gaze toward the source of the voice. Stroking his beard, he muttered, "Things are finally starting to get spicy, aren't they?" Elder Telex from the Magic Council looked on, while the woman beside him nodded in silent agreement. Indeed, quite the show. She wore a satisfied smirk, lost in her own secret thoughts. Back in my day, I'd have outshone them all. This was Jarina Eon, a legend from the Blue Tower. Lee Hanwal's heart skipped. The Magic Council? Why are these heavy hitters actually here? Gathering such titans for a simple internship, this level of observation was absolutely unheard of. Scouting top-tier talent requires the big guns. Every professor was now locked in on this session. Suddenly, a roar erupted. "Look at the screen!" Hanwal snapped his head toward the glowing monitors. Two powerful students were squaring off, their mana clashing as they prepared for an explosive duel. "Huang Yang and Ma Yusheng," the crowd chanted, as the two rivals finally stood face to face. Huang Yang struck first, his magic staff igniting as he unleashed a devastating, high-level spell. The attack surged forward, but Ma Yusheng didn't flinch. He just stood there, cold and calculating. As the magic closed in, he surged upward, executing 3 consecutive blinks with godlike precision. He danced through the explosion, leaving everyone stunned. Jarina Eon could only whisper, "No way. A triple consecutive level 3 blink? That's insane." Even Professor Telix was visibly shaken. Achieving that at 17? Unheard of. Hanwal kept his eyes glued to the unfolding chaos. Most mages spend 25 years just to touch level 3 magic. This kid is built different. Yet Ma Yusheng was wielding it like a master at 17. It defied every law of magic. Check it out. They're both cycling through 3 different elements with perfect control. The battlefield turned into a cinematic frenzy. Even Hanwal was marveling at the sheer scale of their power. Normal sorcerers struggle with 1 attribute. Controlling 2 is a lifetime of work. But 3? This wasn't just hard work. This was divine, innate talent. They were born to rule the magical world. Suddenly, Hanwal's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He let out a strangled gasp. Is that the final phantasmal beast? A gargantuan hawk descended, its eyes dripping with lethal intent. Bloodlust filled the air, paralyzing the students instantly. But before a blow could be struck, the beast's beak hung open as a horrific, agonizing shriek tore through the entire dungeon. Then, the legendary creature simply collapsed. The duo stood frozen in absolute terror. Neither had any clue what just happened. The beast crashed down, lifeless, right at their feet. "Oh my," a soft, sweet voice suddenly chimed in. "Are you two having a spat?" Azel asked, peering down at them. She paused, then added, "Pardon the intrusion." Professor Lee Hanwal snapped out of his trance. "Ah, so that's the girl, Azel. But this hidden boss only spawns under specific, rare conditions. Finding it is already a nightmare, and taking it down is even harder. Yet, that girl managed to solo the entire hunt. Watching her success, the faculty behind the scenes felt a pang of pity rather than pride. The traitor's eldest daughter, one sighed. What a waste. Without her father's sins, her genius would truly soar. Suddenly, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. Wait. What on earth is that? That's the princess of the Adalbert Kingdom. But who's her opponent? I do not recognize that face. Lee Hanwal lost his cool completely. What? He shouted, his heart racing with disbelief. That magic. Is that blink? For a century, countless scholars have gambled their lives to master it. Most ended up dead or crippled, forced to abandon the spell. It is a high-tier magic beyond control. Yet he wields blink as naturally as his own limbs. Elder Telix of the council noted silently. He was just as floored as Hanwal. In the stunned silence, a voice finally broke through. Who exactly is that kid? Hanwal answered instantly. His name is Bak Yusol. He is an anomaly who uses blink as his core signature magic. The room erupted in pure shock. Blink, as a signature spell? Another gasped. That defies everything we know about Ma Yusheng or Azel. Even the great Elder Telix looked baffled. Is that really the case? But why just toy around? If he used actual magic, this duel would have been over in seconds. I just do not get it. Suddenly, a newcomer cut in sharply. You are wrong. He is going all out. Every head in the room whipped around toward the mysterious voice. The sight of him left them stammering. Wait, are you Eltman Eltwin? The man added. He has been serious from the jump. You all just missed it. Now this. This is truly fascinating. Watching that boy fight. It is like seeing the legendary knights of the ancient world come alive. Knights? Someone cried out. That is impossible. Unheard of. Even Telix was visibly shaken. You mean the warriors who vanished alongside the era of cold steel? Melee weapons with no gunpowder, pure skill. How could a mere student master those forgotten arts? Incredible. It was a miracle unfolding. Hanwal remained glued to the screen, unable to look away. Finally, the truth dawned on him. I see. So that is the play. The Knightly Way. Impressive. The Knightly Way was the legendary spirit of those who wielded blades in a magical era. Ancient heroes who crushed evil with their enchanted steel, protecting the world through pure martial might. Fighting with a sword was deemed impossible now. Yet this student swung his staff like lethal steel. If Eltman Eltwin's hunch was right, this kid was a once-in-a-generation monster of talent. As Stella Academy's legendary headmaster and a 9th-level master mage, Eltman Eltwin word was absolute law. One of the continent's 10 great sages had spoken. And with that, the first dungeon session ended. Over at the S-class training grounds, one student was pushing himself to the absolute limit. He channeled raw mana through his staff, relentlessly battering the training dummy before him. Drenched in sweat and gasping for air, he realized his staff was finally running on empty, but the fire in his eyes had not dimmed. "Damn it," he growled, teeth bared in frustration. "This is not enough. I am still nowhere near my goal." Out of 141 candidates, 39 students had already washed out, failing to meet the Academy's brutal standards. Azel took the crown by slaying the boss. He trailed in second, while Ma Yusheng placed sixth. Yet, second place felt like a loss. He could not stop replaying that moment in the dungeon. If he had not stepped in when the boss emerged, he might have seen Yusheng's true strength. Hongyun gritted his teeth, simmering with resentment. Since day one, Yusheng's name had been a thorn. Ma Wanryong's movements were fluid and effortless, yet every strike yielded devastating results that defied all logic. He'd meticulously mapped out every magic array, calculating every possible trajectory. Even then, it wasn't enough. Wanryong neutralized every assault with chilling ease. No matter the strategy, he remains an untouchable fortress of pure talent. No time for self-pity. I need to push past my limits right now. Meanwhile, on the other side of the hall, Beyond stepped into the training room, her gaze immediately locking onto a student commanding his staff with lethal grace. He was conjuring a massive vortex of raw energy. She blinked in disbelief. Wait, is that Ma Wanryong? Usually composed, he was now training with a desperate, almost manic intensity, but she had her own demons to fight. Igniting her resolve, she channeled a massive fire spell, her silhouette engulfed in a brilliant orange inferno. She locked onto her target and let fly. A thunderous blast rocked the room. Clearly, the princess was tilted today. Was she fueled by pure rage? The flames roared with an unbridled fury as she pushed her limits to the edge. The deafening eruption snapped, Wanryong out of his trance. He turned, sensing a massive surge of magical pressure. Beyond's blood simmered. Being ranked third was a bitter pill she simply refused to swallow, no matter what. Bonus points and the Queen Mother's approval weren't enough. If she didn't reclaim her peak performance soon, punishment was inevitable. That low-born commoner acting like he's better than me. So unlucky. With a final scowl, she detonated a final, blinding burst of energy, white light washing over the scorched training grounds. Spent and breathless, Beyond collapsed inward. Nearby, Wanryong watched her, his expression a mix of awe and confusion. He wondered what had gotten into the princess. Yet, strangely, her volatile mood seemed to sharpen her magical edge. Her precision had leveled up significantly. It was genuinely shocking to see such growth in such a short window of time. Beyond's flame magic packed a devastating punch, yet her mastery over the chaos was reaching elite levels. Even Beyond was stunned. Damn it, she thought. I hate to admit it, but UCL's special lesson actually worked. His core principles had boosted her output immensely. He was just a low-ranking commoner with zero vibes, but despite his trash-tier personality and failing grades, UCL was clearly the only one who truly understood magic's flaws. He alone knew how to bridge the power gap. So why did she still feel so restless? Gosh, this is frustrating. Your Highness, a voice chimed. It was Yi Terran. Beyond sighed. What is it now, Terran? Speak up. The Terran scepter you requested is finally fixed. Shall I go and inform UCL about it immediately? Beyond eyed the gleaming artifact. Actually, I'll handle it myself. That's better. Marrying this. Terran bowed low. Understood, Princess. I'll take my leave then. With a swift nod, the attendant vanished into the long hallway. Suddenly, a realization hit Beyond. She reached out, stopping the attendant. Wait. Terran paused, clearly puzzled by the urgency. Princess? Later, at the second main tower, Beyond stood clutching Uciel's scepter, her heart racing with second thoughts. She knew Uciel was nearby. This tower housed the elite faculty's private research labs. What was he doing here? Was he meeting the high-ranking professors? The thought made her skin crawl with anxiety. Suddenly, she froze in place. Her eyes darted around as she second-guessed everything. Wait, why am I here? I should have just given it to him earlier. Coming all this way makes it look like I'm actually hunting him down. This is so cringe. I need to bail, now. But before she could retreat, a familiar, sophisticated voice broke the silence. My. Whatever is the princess doing in this part of the tower? Beyond jumped, her face flushing crimson. Professor Hammerly, hello. It's been quite a while, she stammered. The professor offered a knowing, calm smile. It feels like only yesterday I was teaching you. You've grown so much. But what brings you to these halls? Beyond fumbled for an excuse. I had some business. But something urgent just came up. So I was leaving. I'll just come back another time. Hammerly watched her flustered state with a calm, discerning gaze. I see. It's quite a circus in there right now, so coming back later is a smart move. Bion blinked, speechless. Hammerly leaned in. The top magic officials have all gathered here, specifically for that student, Uziel. Bion's jaw dropped. Shocked, she blurted out, "Wait, why would those big shots care about a commoner?" Hammerly sighed softly. "You know he doesn't use traditional magic, don't you?" Bion nodded sheepishly, a wave of shame washing over her. She realized the professor had seen her recent match. Why did she have to fail so miserably in front of her idol? This is the ultimate embarrassment, she thought, wanting to disappear. Hammerly watched as the princess's expression shifted. "Princess, don't beat yourself up. Your opponent was simply pushed to his absolute limit today." Bion spoke softly, noting he hadn't even touched his mana. Professor Hanwal simply chuckled in response. "It's a matter of faith." "Faith?" Bion gasped, while Hanwal watched the training with a knowing look. The headmaster believes he's reviving the legendary knights of old. To Bion, that sounded absolutely insane. "Uziel and the knights?" she cried. "Professor, how is that even possible in this day and age?" She suddenly froze, flashes of Uziel's combat style crossing her mind. It felt surreal, almost impossible. Yet, he wielded that staff like a deadly blade, shattering her protective barriers with a mere stick. Thinking of that magic blade, a wave of melancholy hit her. She struggled to find the words. Using zero magic at a magic academy? That's social suicide. The punishments and penalties are brutal. Hanwal's voice dropped to a whisper. He knows the consequences perfectly well, yet he doesn't care. He chose this grueling path despite his mastery of Blink. It's honestly as impressive as it is reckless. Could such faith truly exist? Hanwal took his leave, leaving Bayon lost in a sea of confusion. Pursuing knighthood today? You'd be the laughingstock of the kingdom. It's a literal fairy tale. Yet Uziel wasn't playing around. His resolve to become a knight was terrifyingly genuine. She once told him to stop his delusions. Suddenly, the man himself appeared, shattering her train of thought. "What you doing here?" he asked, casually munching on a rare medicinal plant like it was a snack. Bion panicked, her cheeks flushing a deep crimson as she scrambled to regain her cool. "Don't get ideas, I'm not here for you," she confessed before he even asked, making Uziel chuckle. "Who even said you were?" he shot back, his teasing smirk hitting her right in the ego. Bion shot him a cold, piercing glare that immediately forced the protagonist to shut his mouth. She thrust a box toward him with a frigid tone. "Whatever, just take this and go." Uziel's eyes sparkled like diamonds. "Is this Teravan? You're a lifesaver, princess. Thank you." He pried it open and gasped. Before him lay a blade so radiant it felt unreal. "The invisible sword," he whispered. Adalbert's legendary craftsmanship was on a whole different level. A gift fit for a princess. With his current bank account, he couldn't afford even a fragment of this. "Can I keep the box too?" His face screamed pawnshop, his true intentions written all over him. Bion sighed in defeat. "Do whatever." Inside, Uziel was already doing a victory lap for his wallet. "Finally, some real cash," he cheered. Even if the situation felt a little bit intimidating, Bion shook her head at his blatant greed. Typical commoner, she thought, but her doubts still lingered. She hesitated, biting her lip. Finally, the princess gathered her resolve. "Hey, Uziel, are you really not going to use magic?" Uziel froze, the question catching him completely off guard. The air turned heavy. Uziel remained silent, leaving Bion feeling incredibly awkward for even bringing it up. Her face turned bright red as she spun around. "Forget it, I'm leaving," she shouted, fleeing the scene. The protagonist stood there, completely dazed as she vanished. Finally, he turned to leave too. As he walked, her question echoed in his mind. Professor Hanwal had hinted at the same thing earlier. The professor acted all supportive and respectful, but Uziel knew the man didn't truly get it. "Doesn't matter. As long as I have this magic blade, I've got all the backup I need." A grin spread across his face. "All right, let's see what this beauty can actually do." Minutes later, he arrived at the elite Class S training grounds, ready to unleash the sword's power. He gripped the hilt tightly. "Let's see, just gotta pour some mana into this thing, right?" Suddenly, a blazing aura ignited around his hand as a razor-sharp blade materialized. Whoa, this is insane. It was more beautiful than he imagined. But then he wondered, how would Flame look, wielding this? Flame was on a different level. She was a special existence who broke all the rules of magic. She could handle dwarven and elven artifacts that would drain any normal mage dry in seconds. While others would collapse from mana exhaustion, Flame could simply recharge using the energy of nature itself. While others wield their wands like pros, I'm stuck. Not a single drop of mana stays in my body, despite my endless attempts to absorb it. Thanks to a constant magic leak, mana just slips through me like water. In other words, the concentrated mana in my breath is my only hidden edge. Suddenly, he remembered, it had been ages since he checked that cursed system. He pulled it up, muttering, Time for a status update. The holographic panel flickered to life. Strength 77%, senses 29%, agility 87%, and stamina 55%. Endurance sat at 97%, mental power at 43. Skill, blink level 1. Trait, mana leakage. Level 2 unlocked, strength plus 5%, agility plus 8, senses plus 15. His sixth sense roared to life, burning mental energy to detect mana within 18 meters, while accelerating his perception. It triggers during life or death moments. Plus, blood flow increased by 1%. Scanning the board, he grinned. That rank 5 herb reward really paid off. His muscles were finally toning up. But to truly level up, he needed a blade. Time to master the sword, he thought. Things are about to get busy. Transition to the next morning at the academy, the atmosphere in the classroom was electric. A mage's voice boomed. Today, we dive into the world of true magic spells. Everyone, grab your staffs and spread out. This was Professor Virion, the master of defensive magic. After the lecture, he paced through the rows, watching his students channel their energy. Shouts of magic shield filled the air. Virion watched with a smug, half-lidded smile, convinced that this year's batch of students was truly elite. He loved ranking talent. Suddenly, he froze. While everyone else was sweating, UCL was just standing there, doing absolutely nothing. Virion wondered, is this really the S-class commoner everyone's hyped about? An S-class with a peasant background and a mid-tier staff. And yet, he took 5th place in the dungeon training. Honestly, it was annoying to look at. Virion strolled over with a plastic smile. Hey there, you're UCL, right? Why aren't you practicing? UCL, caught off guard, forced a smirk and lied. I'm actually mastering a different defense style. No need for the basics. Virion's eyebrow quirked. Oh? I'm fascinated by this different method of yours. Internally, he fumed. Arrogant brat. If he were Princess Beyond using Adalbert's magic, fine. But a mere commoner looking down on my elite class? Unacceptable. He recalled hearing that UCL only knew Blink. Time to have some fun. With a fake, cheery grin, he announced, well then, why not show us all? Give your classmates a live demonstration of this superior defense skill. Your opponent will be. He paused, his eyes scanning the back of the room. Morso from Class B. Step up. Morso stood up, a cocky smirk plastered on his face. He was ready to rumble. Meanwhile, the professor was playing 4D chess. As a defense lecturer, his reputation and connections were everything. In the Scalvan Empire, making his students look good made him look legendary. What better way to gain clout than showing off high-level magic against an S-class? UCL sighed and shrugged. All right, Professor. If you insist, I'll play along. Virion's eyes lit up. Perfect. Both of you, get to the arena immediately. They stepped onto the stage. Morso was grinning like a shark, while UCL looked totally indifferent. Morso's fanboys screamed, wreck him, Morso. Show that kid who's boss. You got this. Morso flexed. Easy work, just watch. The noise finally caught UCL's attention. He looked at the crowd and sighed. What nonsense is this? He realized. It was just the same old gang of losers, Uslek and Raiden. Whatever. He couldn't use magic anyway. If you guys want a show, I'll give you one. He remembered Virion's nasty reputation. This guy had been a snake since day one. How pathetic. A smug grin spread across his face. Why not turn this situation into the perfect test? To gauge my hidden growth. An excellent proposal, the professor interjected suddenly, his voice echoing. This duel follows a strict offense-defense structure. Remember, any outside magic is strictly forbidden. Morso braced himself, locking into a combat-ready position. Below the stage, students began buzzing with anticipation. If Morso strikes, it's game over, right? Pure defense can't win. Wait, did he master Earth-type assault magic? They say it's impossible to parry, yet Prince Jeremy remained unfazed, his eyes tracking every move. Prepare yourselves. Unleash your true potential, the professor roared. Without delay, Morso hoisted his catalyst. He etched a mana circle into the air, summoning a massive boulder. Witnessing the scale, the crowd gasped in horror, shouting, "Stop! That's a Tier 2 spell." During standard drills, Tier 1 magic is the unwritten law. Can UCL survive this? But UCL didn't flinch. He stayed ice cold. Tracking his target's every twitch, Morso fumed. That Class S trash is too cocky. Eat this. With a savage roar, he launched the projectile. The massive rock tore through the air like a meteor. A suffocating pressure surged from the stone. UCL reacted instantly, flooding his staff with concentrated mana. In a flash, a blade manifested. He swung with violent precision. The movement looked deceptively light, yet its destructive force was terrifying, obliterating the boulder into a cloud of pulverized dust. UCL's strike left the instructor paralyzed in disbelief. Only Jeremy watched on. his expression unreadable. Morso shook with terror, stammering, "Impossible. Where did my spell go?" But the reality was simple. Uciel had utterly erased it. A wave of shocked whispers swept through the onlookers. "Did he just slash through a spell?" one asked, bewildered. "The magic. It literally just blinked out." Unthinkable. Professor Virian's mind raced in panic. There's no way he just cut through pure magic. It defied logic. Did Uciel truly delete the spell? Every magical construct is bound by mana threads. Sever the mana, and the spell collapses. Is that his secret? Meanwhile, Uciel inspected his blade. A satisfied smirk played on his lips. "Exceeded my expectations," he mused, despite only negating Tier 2. Just a few days of grinding on the field paid off massively. This strategy was definitely worth testing. "This is where I belong." Gritting his teeth in fury, Morso hissed under his breath, "Filthy peasant, how dare he stop my spell?" Virian realized a Morso defeat would be a disaster. He couldn't just stay idle. "Uciel," the professor called out, "your defensive prowess is noted. But blocking single spells has its ceiling. Your technique is limited. Tell me, what happens if you're swarmed by a barrage?" Taking the blatant hint, Morso's eyes lit up with malicious intent. He wore a wicked grin. Uciel just groaned internally. This teacher really loved the sound of his own voice. What a drag. Suddenly, Uciel's eyes narrowed. Morso was already weaving his next desperate assault. A cluster of stones manifested he was going all out. With a frantic gesture, he sent them screaming toward Uciel. The air crackled with overwhelming mana. The crowd erupted into worried murmurs at the sheer intensity. "That's overkill. Someone's gonna get killed." Why was the professor refusing to stop this madness? Morso's ego swelled. "It's over," he thought as the stone barrage closed in. The tension was suffocating. Uciel's gaze sharpened, tracking the swarm of projectiles as they bridged the gap at terminal velocity. 11 incoming targets. If he couldn't use Blink to close the distance, he had only one play left. A total wipe was the only option. As the rocks neared, Uciel stood his ground, unfazed. With a fluid, effortless stroke, he parried. In a heartbeat, every single stone detonated into dust. Seeing his ultimate move neutralized so casually, Morso's world crumbled. His expression shifted from shock to pure hatred. Eyes bloodshot and veins popping. He gasped, "What?" His mind was a storm of bitter resentment. My peak magic. Stopped by a nobody? How could a lowly peasant possess such monstrous strength? This is insanity. Meanwhile, Professor Virian was internally losing his mind at the unfolding disaster. Damn it, Morso, you incompetent fool. If the noble loses here, Virian's career is toasted. I'm finished. I need a plan. Meanwhile, Uciel blinked, surprised. Guess those pro gamer strats actually work here. Honestly, this is cracked. It's the elite panning technique, but there's a catch. It absolutely